Your emotions shape almost every part of your life, from the decisions you make to the way you interact with others, and even the way you feel about yourself. Yet most people let their feelings control them instead of learning to control their emotions. This creates stress, frustration, and regret. It keeps you stuck reacting to situations instead of responding with clarity and purpose. Imagine being able to notice your emotions the moment they arise, understand them, and choose how to act instead of being pushed around by anger, fear, or anxiety. Imagine making decisions calmly under pressure, handling conflict without losing your cool, and feeling steady even in tough situations. That is what emotional mastery really is, and it is something anyone can develop with practice. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to take full responsibility for your emotions, build awareness, and create the space between feeling and action so you can respond intentionally. You'll discover practical ways to stay calm, reflect on your experiences, train your mind to handle pressure, and turn challenges into opportunities for growth. By following these steps consistently, you'll stop reacting on impulse and start leading your life with focus, clarity, and balance. You'll feel more confident in yourself, more in control of your decisions, and more capable of handling whatever life throws at you. This is a guide to truly taking charge of your emotions and living with purpose, calm, and strength every single day. Are you ready to stop letting emotions rule your life and start mastering them instead? This audiobook will show you exactly how. Chapter 1. Take responsibility for every emotion you experience daily. Taking responsibility for every emotion you experience daily is not about blame or shame, and it is not about forcing yourself to feel positive all the time. It is about ownership. It is about realizing that while you may not choose what happens to you, you always have a role in how you interpret it, how you respond to it, and how long you allow it to live inside you. This single shift changes everything. When you stop seeing emotions as events that attack you and start seeing them as signals you are responsible for managing, you step into personal power. Life no longer happens to you. You happen to life. Most people live as emotional passengers. Their mood depends on how others treat them. Their peace depends on circumstances. Their energy rises and falls based on praise, criticism, success, or delay. This is not weakness of character. It is simply untrained awareness. From an early age, many people were taught what to feel, but never how to manage what they feel. As a result, emotions run unchecked and decisions are made in moments of anger, fear, excitement, or insecurity that later shape entire lives. Responsibility is the beginning of freedom, because what you take responsibility for you can improve. The moment you say this emotion is mine, you remove its power to control you. You stop pointing outward and start looking inward. You stop asking, why did this happen to me, and start asking, how will I handle this well? This does not deny pain. It gives pain direction. Stoic wisdom teaches that events are neutral, but judgments create suffering. Two people can face the same situation and experience entirely different emotions. The difference is not the event, but the interpretation. When you understand this, you stop waiting for the world to change and begin changing how you meet the world. Responsibility begins with noticing. Most emotions operate automatically. A comment triggers irritation. A delay triggers frustration. A comparison triggers insecurity. Before you can take responsibility, you must see the pattern clearly. This requires slowing down just enough to catch the emotion as it arises. Not after it explodes. Not hours later. Right as it begins. This moment is where control lives. You do not need to name the emotion perfectly. You only need to recognize that something has shifted inside you. The body often notices first. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, clenched jaw, restless thoughts. These are signals. When you learn to read them, you gain early access to your emotional state. Once you notice the emotion, the next step is to remove the story. Emotions are often fueled by the meaning we attach to events. Someone interrupts you and the mind says they do not respect me. A message goes unanswered and the mind says I am being ignored. These stories feel real, but they are interpretations, not facts. Responsibility means questioning these automatic conclusions. Ask yourself what else could be true. Ask yourself whether the story is helping or harming your state. This is not denial. It is clarity. When you separate fact from assumption, emotional intensity drops and choice returns. Taking responsibility also means accepting that emotions are internal experiences, not external forces. No one makes you angry. No situation forces you to feel small. Others can act in ways that are careless, rude, or unfair, but the emotional response occurs within you. This truth can feel uncomfortable at first because it removes excuses, but it also removes helplessness. If someone else controls your emotions, then you are powerless. If you own them, then you can train them. Responsibility is the price of control, and it is worth paying. Daily responsibility requires daily practice. Start with a simple check-in. Several times a day, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now and why? Do not judge the answer. Simply observe it. This builds emotional literacy. Many people live with constant background emotions they never identify, such as quiet resentment, low-grade anxiety, or unspoken disappointment. These emotions leak into behavior, tone, decisions, and relationships. When you name them, you can address them. What remains unexamined remains in control. Another practical step is to stop outsourcing emotional regulation. Many people rely on distractions, substances, or other people to change how they feel. They scroll, eat, argue, vent, or escape to avoid discomfort. Responsibility means learning to sit with an emotion long enough to understand it. When sadness arises, instead of immediately numbing it, ask what is being lost or unmet. When anger appears, ask what boundary has been crossed. Emotions carry information. If you rush to silence them, you miss the message, and the emotion returns stronger later. This does not mean indulging every feeling. Responsibility is not indulgence. It is discipline. Stoic strength is the ability to feel without being ruled by feeling. You can acknowledge anger without acting on it. You can feel fear without retreating from your values. You can experience disappointment without collapsing into self-pity. Responsibility means choosing behavior that aligns with your long-term character rather than your short-term emotion. A powerful way to practice responsibility is to delay expression. When a strong emotion arises, give yourself time before responding. Even a short pause can prevent regret. During that pause, ask what response would reflect the person I am becoming. This question shifts focus from reaction to identity. You stop asking what feels good now and start asking what builds strength. Over time, this rewires your habits. Emotional maturity is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of choice. Language also matters. Pay attention to how you speak about your emotions. Saying I am angry makes anger part of your identity. Saying I feel anger acknowledges it as a temporary state. This small shift creates distance and reduces intensity. Responsibility grows when you see emotions as experiences you have, not definitions of who you are. You are not your frustration, your fear, or your sadness. You are the one experiencing them and deciding how to respond. Another essential practice is accountability after the fact. When you react poorly, instead of justifying it, reflect on it honestly. Ask what emotion drove the reaction. Ask what belief fueled it. Ask what you could do differently next time. This is not self-attack. It is self-training. Every emotional mistake is data. When you review it calmly, you extract lessons and improve future responses. Avoiding reflection guarantees repetition. Responsibility also means recognizing patterns. Certain situations, people, or times of day may trigger predictable emotions. Fatigue, hunger, stress, and overload lower emotional control. When you identify these patterns, you can plan around them. This is practical wisdom. If you know you are more irritable when tired, you can protect others and yourself by reducing stimulation and increasing rest. This is not weakness. It is intelligent self-management. Many emotions are rooted in expectations. When reality does not match expectation, disappointment, frustration, or anger follow. Responsibility includes examining expectations and adjusting them to reality. Expecting constant ease, respect, or understanding sets you up for emotional turbulence. A stoic approach accepts that difficulty, misunderstanding, and delay are part of life. When you expect challenges, you meet them with steadiness instead of shock. This reduces emotional spikes and builds resilience. Responsibility also requires honesty about control. Some things are within your control and some are not. Your actions, choices, and interpretations are yours. Outcomes, opinions, and external events are not. Emotional suffering often comes from trying to control what you cannot. When you release this struggle, emotional energy returns. Focus on effort, not outcome. Focus on conduct, not applause. This alignment brings calm even in uncertainty. Daily emotional responsibility is strengthened by routine. Regular sleep, movement, nutrition, and quiet time create a stable baseline. When the body is regulated, the mind follows. Neglecting physical basics makes emotional control harder. Responsibility is holistic. You cannot expect clarity from a depleted system. Caring for the body is not indulgence. It is preparation. Writing can deepen responsibility. At the end of the day, reflect briefly on emotional moments. What did you feel? What triggered it? How did you respond? What would you change? This practice builds awareness and intention. Over time, patterns emerge and growth accelerates. You stop being surprised by yourself and start shaping yourself deliberately. Responsibility also extends to relationships. Taking responsibility for your emotions means not placing the burden of your happiness on others. It means communicating needs clearly instead of expecting mind reading. It means owning reactions instead of accusing others of causing them. This builds respect and trust. When you say, "I felt hurt by this and I need clarity," you take ownership and invite resolution. When you say, "You made me feel this way," you invite defense. One of the hardest emotions to take responsibility for is resentment. It often feels justified. But resentment is a signal that a boundary or expectation needs attention. Holding it quietly poisons your state. Responsibility means addressing it through conversation, adjustment, or acceptance. Silence and bitterness are not strength. Clarity and action are. Fear also demands responsibility. Fear can protect or paralyze. When you avoid responsibility, fear grows. When you face it with measured action, it shrinks. Ask what is actually at risk. Ask what small step you can take despite fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act responsibly in its presence. Guilt and shame often arise from unresolved actions or unrealistic standards. Responsibility means correcting what can be corrected and releasing what cannot. Carrying endless self-punishment does not make you better. It keeps you stuck. Make amends where possible. Learn the lesson. Move forward with improved conduct. This is disciplined self-respect. Responsibility for emotions also includes choosing your inputs carefully. What you consume influences how you feel. Constant negativity, comparison, outrage, or noise overstimulates the emotional system. Protecting attention is an act of responsibility. Choose information that strengthens clarity, not agitation. Limit exposure that drains focus. This is not avoidance. It is stewardship of mental energy. As you practice responsibility, you will notice a shift. Emotional storms pass faster. Reactions soften. Decisions improve. You feel less controlled by circumstance and more grounded in choice. This does not make life painless. It makes you capable. Stoic calm is not emotional numbness. It is emotional strength guided by reason. Over time, others may notice the change. You respond with steadiness instead of volatility. You listen instead of exploding. You act with intention instead of impulse. This influence is quiet but powerful. Emotional responsibility sets a standard. It invites others to rise or reveals where distance is needed. Either outcome brings clarity. The work is daily. There is no finish line. Mastery is maintained, not achieved once. Some days you will respond well. Other days you will fall short. Responsibility means showing up again without excuses. Consistency builds character. Character builds freedom. When you take responsibility for every emotion you experience daily, you reclaim authorship of your life. You stop living at the mercy of moods and start living by principles. You become someone who can be trusted with challenge, success, and uncertainty. This is not about control over others or circumstances. It is about self-command, and self-command is the foundation of a strong, meaningful, and steady life. Emotional responsibility is not heavy. It is relieving. It removes chaos. It simplifies choices. It aligns actions with values. Each time you choose ownership over excuse, you grow. Each time you pause instead of react, you strengthen. Each time you face an emotion honestly, you learn. This is how mastery begins, and this is how it continues every single day. Chapter 20. Build awareness by noticing emotions without reacting instantly. Building awareness by noticing emotions without reacting instantly is the skill that turns emotional control from an idea into a daily reality. Without awareness there is no choice. Without choice, emotions run the day quietly but decisively. Most people do not fail at emotional mastery because they are weak. They fail because they move too fast. An emotion rises and action follows before the mind even arrives. Awareness slows that process just enough for wisdom to enter. Awareness begins with understanding that emotions do not appear fully formed. They emerge in stages. First, there is a physical signal. The body tightens. Breathing changes. Attention narrows. Then a thought appears. Then a feeling gains momentum. Reaction usually happens at the end of this chain when intensity is already high. Awareness trains you to move your attention earlier in the process, where the emotion is still manageable. This is where real power exists. Noticing an emotion does not mean stopping it. It means observing it as it is forming. This observation must be neutral. The moment you judge the emotion, you lose clarity. The moment you suppress it, you create resistance. Awareness is quiet watching. It is seeing what is happening inside without rushing to fix, explain, or express it. This simple practice creates distance. That distance is the space where self-control lives. Many people confuse awareness with overthinking. They are not the same. Overthinking is reactive and tense. Awareness is calm and factual. Overthinking spins stories. Awareness notices sensations. Overthinking asks why this always happens. Awareness notes what is happening right now. This difference matters. Awareness grounds you in the present. Overthinking pulls you into mental noise. To build awareness, you must learn to feel before you act. This requires patience with discomfort. Emotions often feel urgent. They demand immediate action. Anger pushes toward confrontation. Anxiety pushes toward avoidance. Excitement pushes toward impulsive decisions. Awareness teaches you to tolerate the urge without obeying it. You learn that an urge can exist without being acted upon. This realization alone changes behavior. A practical way to begin is to check the body first. Emotions always register physically. Scan the body during moments of tension. Notice the jaw, the shoulders, the stomach, the breath. You do not need to change anything. Just notice. This brings attention out of racing thoughts and into direct experience. When attention is in the body, emotional intensity often softens naturally. Another practice is labeling the emotion silently. Use simple words. Anger, sadness, fear, disappointment, tension, relief. Do not analyze it. Just name it. Naming creates separation. The emotion becomes an object of awareness rather than a force controlling behavior. This does not weaken the emotion, it weakens its grip. Research and experience both show that naming feelings reduces reactivity and increases clarity. Timing matters. Awareness is most important at moments when stakes feel high. Conversations, conflicts, decisions, delays, criticism. These moments test awareness because the mind wants speed, not clarity. Practice noticing in low-intensity situations first. Minor frustrations, small delays, mild irritation. These are training grounds. As awareness strengthens, it carries into more challenging moments. One of the biggest obstacles to awareness is identification. People often merge with their emotions. They say this is who I am rather than this is what I feel. Awareness breaks this fusion. You begin to experience emotions as passing states rather than fixed truths. This perspective creates steadiness. When emotions are seen as temporary, they lose their authority to dictate behavior. Awareness also reveals patterns. You may notice certain triggers repeatedly create the same emotional response. Specific words, tones, situations, or people. Awareness does not judge these patterns. It simply reveals them. Once revealed, they can be worked with. Without awareness, patterns remain invisible and continue shaping life from the background. Not reacting instantly does not mean becoming passive. It means choosing timing. A delayed response is often a better response. Many regrets come from words spoken too quickly or decisions made under emotional pressure. Awareness creates a pause. In that pause, you regain access to values, reason, and long-term perspective. The response that follows is usually calmer, clearer, and more effective. Silence can be a powerful form of awareness. When you feel the urge to speak, immediately choose to listen instead. Notice what is happening inside as you listen. Notice the urge to interrupt, defend, or explain. This is not weakness, it is discipline. Listening while aware gives you information about yourself and the situation. It also reduces conflict and increases respect. Another practice is observing emotions after they pass. Reflect on moments when you reacted quickly. What did you feel right before acting? Where did you feel it? What thought accompanied it? This review builds awareness for next time. You are training the mind to recognize earlier signals. Over time, the gap between emotion and reaction widens. Awareness requires honesty. Some emotions are uncomfortable to admit. Envy, insecurity, resentment, pride. Awareness does not filter for socially acceptable feelings. It sees what is present. Avoiding awareness of certain emotions gives them more control. Facing them calmly reduces their power. What you can look at directly, you can manage. A Stoic approach to awareness emphasizes acceptance of inner experience without attachment. Emotions arise because you are human. Awareness does not aim to eliminate them. It aims to understand them without being dominated by them. When you stop fighting emotions and start observing them, they become less disruptive. Resistance feeds intensity. Observation reduces it. Daily life offers constant opportunities to practice. Waiting in line, receiving feedback, facing delays, encountering disagreement. Each moment is a chance to notice rather than react. Awareness turns ordinary situations into training. You do not need dramatic events. Consistency in small moments builds strength. Technology and constant stimulation make awareness harder. Notifications, noise, and constant input pull attention outward. Awareness requires inward attention. Create moments of quiet during the day. Even short pauses help. A few conscious breaths before responding to a message. A moment of stillness before speaking. These pauses restore awareness. Awareness also improves relationships. When you notice emotions as they arise, you communicate more clearly. You speak from understanding rather than impulse. You listen without defensiveness. You respond rather than react. This reduces conflict and builds trust. Others feel safer around someone who is emotionally aware because reactions are predictable and measured. Noticing emotions without reacting instantly also builds self-respect. You prove to yourself that you are capable of restraint. This confidence grows. You begin to trust your ability to handle difficult moments. This trust reduces anxiety about future challenges. You know you can pause, observe, and choose. Awareness sharpens decision-making. Emotions influence choices, whether noticed or not. Awareness brings influence into the light. You can ask whether a decision is driven by fear, excitement, pressure, or values. This clarity prevents impulsive mistakes and aligns actions with long-term goals. The practice is simple but not easy. The mind will forget. Reactions will happen. Awareness will be lost and regained many times. This is normal. Progress is measured by noticing sooner, not by never reacting. Each moment of awareness counts. Each pause strengthens the habit. Do not expect perfection. Expect improvement. Awareness grows gradually through repetition. The goal is not constant calm. The goal is conscious engagement with inner experience. Over time, awareness becomes more natural. You notice emotions automatically without effort. This is the foundation for deeper emotional mastery. As awareness strengthens, you will experience emotions more fully but suffer less. You will feel anger without losing control, sadness without collapse, joy without recklessness. This balance is emotional maturity. It allows you to live fully without being driven by extremes. Building awareness by noticing emotions without reacting instantly is the quiet discipline that changes everything else. It gives you access to choice. It slows life just enough to be lived intentionally. With awareness, you are no longer dragged by inner storms. You stand in the middle of them, steady, observant, and capable. This skill practiced daily becomes the anchor of a calm, focused, and self-directed life. Chapter 30. Pause your reactions to choose calm responses intentionally. The moment you learn to pause your reactions, you reclaim control over your life in ways most people never experience. This pause is not hesitation and it is not fear. It is strength in its most practical form. A reaction is automatic and fast, while a response is chosen and deliberate. The difference between the two shapes relationships, careers, health, and inner peace. When reactions rule emotions decide your actions before wisdom has a chance to speak. When you pause even briefly, intention steps in and changes the outcome. Most emotional damage does not come from what we feel, but from what we do immediately after feeling it. Words escape too quickly. Decisions are made too fast. Messages are sent in moments that later demand repair. The pause interrupts this pattern. It creates a small window where you are no longer trapped by urgency. In that window you can see clearly. You can choose calm not because the situation is calm, but because you decide to be. Pausing is a skill that must be trained because the mind prefers speed. Speed feels efficient and powerful, but emotionally it is often reckless. Emotions push toward immediate release. Anger wants expression, fear wants escape, excitement wants action. The pause does not deny these urges. It simply refuses to obey them blindly. This refusal is not suppression, it is leadership. To pause effectively, you must recognize urgency as a signal, not a command. When an emotion demands immediate action, that is precisely when a pause is needed most. Urgency narrows thinking. It pulls attention into one outcome and blocks perspective. A pause restores range. It allows you to see options, consequences, and values again. The simplest pause begins with the breath. One slow breath taken consciously changes the nervous system. It signals safety to the body and slows mental speed. This is not a relaxation technique. It is a regulation tool. The breath anchors you in the present and interrupts emotional momentum. Even a few seconds of steady breathing can prevent a regrettable reaction. Pausing also involves posture and stillness. When emotions rise, the body often moves toward action. Hands clench, voices rise, bodies lean forward. Choosing stillness sends a message inward that you are in control. Standing or sitting calmly reduces emotional escalation. The body and mind influence each other constantly. Use the body to support restraint. Another way to pause is to delay expression. You do not need to respond immediately to every message, comment, or situation. Silence can be a strategic choice. It allows emotions to settle and clarity to emerge. Many conflicts resolve themselves when immediate reaction is avoided. Time reveals what is truly important and what was simply noise. During the pause, ask a grounding question. What response aligns with the person I want to be? This question shifts focus from emotion to identity. You stop asking, how do I feel, and start asking, who am I choosing to be in this moment? This reorientation brings calm authority to your response. Calm responses are not weak responses. Calm does not mean passive or silent. It means measured, intentional, and firm when needed. Calm allows you to communicate clearly without hostility. It allows you to set boundaries without aggression. It allows you to say no without guilt. Calm responses are powerful because they are controlled. Pausing also protects your energy. Emotional reactions consume mental and physical resources. They drain focus and create lingering stress. Calm responses conserve energy. They prevent emotional hangovers where you replay conversations and regret words. By pausing, you save yourself from unnecessary exhaustion. This practice is especially important in moments of conflict. Conflict triggers survival responses. The mind seeks to defend, dominate, or withdraw. Pausing disrupts these instincts. It allows you to listen fully. It allows you to understand before responding. This often changes the direction of the interaction entirely. Many arguments escalate simply because neither person pauses long enough to hear. Pausing reactions also improves decision-making. Emotional decisions prioritize immediate relief over long-term benefit. Calm responses consider consequences. When you pause, you allow reason to re-enter. You can assess risks, benefits, and alternatives. This leads to better outcomes in work, finances, and personal growth. A pause does not require perfect calm. It only requires enough space to prevent impulsive action. Even if emotion remains strong, the pause gives you control over behavior. You may still feel anger, but you choose respectful language. You may still feel fear, but you choose to move forward thoughtfully. This distinction matters. Practicing pauses in small moments builds capacity for larger ones. Pause before responding to minor annoyances. Pause before checking notifications. Pause before making routine decisions. These small pauses train the nervous system to tolerate stillness. Over time, this ability carries into high-pressure situations. One challenge is the fear that pausing means losing opportunities or appearing weak. This fear is unfounded. Calm responses command respect. They signal confidence and self-control. People trust those who do not react impulsively. Leaders are defined not by speed of reaction but by quality of response. Pausing also reduces emotional manipulation. When you react instantly, others can predict and influence your behavior. When you pause, you become less reactive and more autonomous. This protects you from provocation and pressure. You stop being pulled into emotional games. The pause is also an act of self-respect. It communicates that your emotions deserve thoughtful handling. You are not a machine reacting to stimuli. You are a conscious being choosing how to act. This respect strengthens self-trust and inner stability. There will be moments when pausing feels uncomfortable. Silence can feel awkward. Delayed responses can feel risky. This discomfort is temporary. Regret lasts longer. Choose short discomfort over long regret. Each pause builds confidence in your ability to handle emotions skillfully. Pausing does not mean overthinking. It means creating space, not spinning stories. Keep the pause simple. Breathe. Observe. Choose. Avoid mental debates. The goal is clarity, not complexity. Over time, pausing becomes automatic. The gap between feeling and action widens naturally. You notice emotions rising and instinctively slow down. This is emotional maturity in action. Life feels less chaotic. You feel steadier even when circumstances are unstable. Calm responses also influence others. Calm de-escalates tension. It invites reason. It sets a tone. Others often mirror your composure. Even when they do not, your calm protects you from being pulled into unnecessary conflict. Pausing reactions also supports physical health. Chronic reactivity keeps the body in stress mode. Pausing activates regulation. Lower stress improves sleep, digestion, immunity, and overall well-being. Emotional discipline benefits the entire system. The practice requires commitment. You will forget. You will react. This is part of learning. Each time you notice and pause again, you strengthen the habit. Progress is measured by recovery speed, not perfection. Pausing your reactions to choose calm responses intentionally is not about controlling emotions. It is about directing behavior. Emotions can exist without ruling you. Calm is a choice available in every moment where you pause long enough to see it. This pause becomes your anchor. It grounds you in reason, values, and purpose. It transforms emotional energy into thoughtful action. With this skill, you move through life with steadiness, clarity, and strength. You no longer fear emotional moments because you trust your ability to meet them calmly. This trust is freedom, and it grows each time you choose to pause. Chapter 4c. Strengthen emotional control through daily reflection and journaling. What you reflect on daily is what you gain control over for life. Emotional control does not grow from willpower alone. It grows from awareness that deepens through honest reflection. Journaling is not about recording events. It is about training the mind to observe itself without defense or distortion. When emotions are written down, they lose their ability to hide. What is hidden controls behavior. What is seen can be shaped. Most emotional reactions repeat because they are never reviewed. A feeling rises, you act, you move on, and the cycle continues. Reflection breaks that loop. It turns experience into instruction. When you sit with the day and look at how emotions moved through you, patterns begin to surface. You notice where control was strong and where it slipped. This is not self-criticism, it is self-leadership. Daily reflection creates emotional distance. Writing slows the mind and removes urgency. Thoughts that feel overwhelming internally appear more manageable on the page. Emotions become specific instead of vague. Instead of carrying tension all night, you release it through clarity. This process trains emotional regulation even when you are not writing, because the mind learns to organize experience rather than react to it. Journaling strengthens control by making emotions concrete. When feelings stay abstract, they feel larger than they are. Writing forces precision. You must choose words. That choice brings order. Order brings calm. Calm allows insight. This sequence repeats with practice and builds a stable emotional foundation. The goal of journaling is not to relive emotion, but to understand it. When reflecting, focus on moments where emotion influenced behavior. Ask what was felt, what triggered it, and how it was handled. This review reveals cause and effect. You begin to see that emotions follow predictable paths. Predictability brings control. Reflection also exposes thinking habits. Many emotional reactions are fueled by assumptions, exaggerations, or rigid expectations. Writing reveals these mental patterns clearly. When you see them in writing, they often lose credibility. You realize how often emotion was driven by interpretation rather than reality. This awareness weakens impulsive reactions in the future. Daily reflection should be simple. Complexity leads to avoidance. A few honest sentences are enough. Consistency matters more than length. The value comes from repetition. Each day adds a layer of understanding. Over time, emotional intelligence becomes internalized. Journaling also builds accountability. When actions are written down, excuses disappear. You cannot hide from your own words. This accountability is quiet but powerful. It encourages responsibility without shame. You see where improvement is needed and where progress is real. Another benefit of reflection is emotional closure. Many emotions linger because they are unresolved. Writing provides resolution. You acknowledge the feeling, extract the lesson, and release the rest. This prevents emotional accumulation that leads to stress and irritability. Reflection also strengthens memory. You remember emotional lessons more clearly when they are written. This memory informs future behavior. When a similar situation arises, the lesson surfaces naturally. You respond with greater control, not because you force it, but because you learned from experience. Journaling trains patience. Sitting with thoughts without distraction builds tolerance for stillness. This stillness carries into daily life. You become less reactive because you are familiar with observing emotions quietly. The journal becomes a training ground for composure. Reflection should include successes, not only failures. Notice moments when you handled emotions well. Acknowledge restraint, clarity, or calm responses. This reinforces positive behavior. Emotional control grows when progress is recognized. Confidence supports discipline. Writing also reduces emotional intensity. Putting words to feelings activates rational processing. This balances emotional charge. The result is not emotional numbness, but emotional stability. You feel without being overwhelmed. Journaling helps separate identity from emotion. You write about emotions rather than from them. This perspective shift is crucial. You become the observer, not the emotion itself. Observers have choice. Emotions alone do not. A useful reflection practice is to write without editing. Allow thoughts to flow naturally. This honesty reveals true emotional drivers. Polished writing hides insight. Raw writing exposes it. The page is private. Use it fully. Reflection also uncovers unmet needs. Emotions often signal needs that were ignored. Writing clarifies what was missing. Rest, respect, clarity, boundaries, meaning. Once identified, these needs can be addressed constructively rather than expressed emotionally. Daily journaling improves emotional forecasting. You begin to anticipate emotional responses before they occur. This anticipation allows preparation. Prepared minds respond better. Emotional surprises decrease. Confidence increases. The act of writing itself is grounding. It slows breathing and steadies attention. This physical regulation supports emotional control. The body and mind work together. Journaling engages both. Reflection also helps process difficult experiences. Instead of replaying them mentally, you organize them on paper. This reduces rumination. The mind stops circling because the experience has been acknowledged and structured. Writing strengthens discipline. Committing to daily reflection builds consistency. Consistency builds trust in self. Trust reduces emotional insecurity. The benefits compound quietly. Journaling also sharpens values. When you reflect on emotional decisions, you clarify what matters. You see where actions aligned or conflicted with values. This clarity guides future responses. Emotional control improves when values lead. Reflection is especially valuable after emotionally charged days. Writing prevents carryover. You enter the next day lighter and clearer. Emotional reset becomes routine rather than rare. This practice also increases empathy. As you understand your own emotional patterns, you become more understanding of others. This reduces judgment and conflict. Calm interactions increase. Reflection is not about dwelling on the past. It is about preparing for the future. Each entry strengthens emotional readiness. You train yourself to meet life with steadiness. The journal becomes a record of growth. Looking back reveals progress that is often invisible day to day. This perspective motivates continued discipline. Emotional control through journaling is quiet work. It does not announce itself. It builds strength privately. Over time, reactions soften, decisions improve, and inner stability grows. The discipline of reflection teaches patience, honesty, and responsibility. These qualities form the foundation of emotional mastery. Without reflection, emotions repeat. With reflection, emotions teach. Commit to daily reflection not as a task, but as a practice of self-respect. You are worth understanding. Your emotions deserve clarity, not chaos. Each day you write, you take control back from impulse. You choose insight over reaction. You choose growth over repetition. This choice made consistently transforms emotional life from unpredictable to intentional. Strengthening emotional control through daily reflection and journaling is not about perfection. It is about progress recorded one honest page at a time. Chapter 50. Replace emotional habits with thoughtful, disciplined responses. The day you replace emotional habits with disciplined responses is the day your life stops running on autopilot. Emotional habits are not accidents. They are learned patterns repeated so often they feel natural. You snap when criticized. You withdraw when uncomfortable. You rush decisions when excited. These responses feel automatic because they have been practiced unconsciously for years. Discipline begins when you realize that what was learned can be retrained. You are not here to fight emotions. You are here to guide behavior with intention. Most people believe emotions control them because reactions happen quickly. In truth, reactions happen quickly because habits are strong. Habits are simply repeated responses that no longer require thought. Emotional discipline means interrupting these patterns and installing better ones through repetition and clarity. This is not a one-time decision. It is a process of daily replacement. The first step is recognizing emotional habits honestly. Notice what you do when stress appears. Notice how you speak when challenged. Notice how you behave when plans change or expectations fail. These moments reveal your default settings. Do not judge them. Judgment blocks change. Observation opens it. Emotional habits are reinforced because they once served a purpose. Anger may have created distance. Avoidance may have reduced discomfort. Control may have provided safety. These responses worked at some point, which is why they stayed. Discipline requires updating responses to match who you are now, not who you had to be before. Replacing a habit requires clarity about the response you want instead. You cannot remove a behavior without replacing it. The mind needs direction. Choose a disciplined response that aligns with your values. Calm speech instead of sharp words. Delayed decisions instead of impulsive action. Honest communication instead of silence. Discipline is specific. Thoughtful responses are slower by design. They allow you to act deliberately rather than reflexively. This does not mean weak or passive behavior. It means measured strength. Thoughtful responses are firm, clear, and grounded. They protect dignity and long-term goals. To build disciplined responses, you must practice them repeatedly in low-pressure situations. Do not wait for major emotional tests. Use everyday moments. Choose calm in traffic. Choose patience in conversation. Choose restraint in minor frustrations. These small repetitions rewire habits. Emotional habits are stored in the nervous system. Change requires consistency, not intensity. One strong decision does not replace a habit. Many small disciplined choices do. Each time you respond thoughtfully, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen the new one. Language plays a role in habit replacement. Speak to yourself clearly. When emotion rises, say what response you are choosing. This directs attention and reinforces discipline. The mind follows instruction when it is simple and consistent. Discipline also requires environment support. Reduce triggers that reinforce old habits. Limit exposure to situations that push you toward impulsive responses while you are retraining. This is not avoidance, it is strategic self-management. Thoughtful responses often feel uncomfortable at first. Old habits feel familiar even when harmful. New responses feel awkward because they are new. This discomfort is a sign of growth. Stay with it. Familiarity will follow repetition. Replacing emotional habits also requires forgiveness for setbacks. You will revert sometimes. This is part of change. Do not use setbacks as proof of failure. Use them as feedback. Each mistake shows where discipline needs strengthening. Discipline grows through clarity of consequence. Emotional habits often bring short-term relief and long-term problems. Disciplined responses may feel harder initially but create stability, respect, and self-trust over time. Keep this contrast clear. Long-term benefits sustain discipline. Thoughtful responses improve relationships. When you stop reacting emotionally, others feel safer engaging with you. Conversations become clearer. Conflict reduces. Respect increases. Emotional discipline builds reliability, which is the foundation of strong relationships. Replacing habits also changes self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone who chooses rather than reacts. This identity shift reinforces discipline. You act in alignment with who you believe you are. Practice slowing down behavior even when emotion is intense. Speak slower, move slower, decide slower. Slowness restores control. Speed belongs to habit. Deliberation belongs to discipline. Another key practice is preparing responses in advance. Anticipate situations that trigger emotional habits. Decide beforehand how you will respond. This preparation reduces surprise and increases follow-through. Discipline is easier when planned. Replacing emotional habits is not about becoming emotionless. Emotions will still arise. The difference is in what follows. Feelings inform, discipline decides. This separation is crucial. Daily routines support disciplined responses. Consistent sleep, movement, and reflection strengthen emotional regulation. When the body is stable, the mind follows. Discipline is harder when depleted. Emotional habits also fade when attention shifts from self to purpose. When you focus on contribution, growth, and values, reactions lose importance. Discipline grows when meaning is clear. Thoughtful responses often involve saying less, not more. Silence used intentionally is powerful. It prevents escalation. It preserves clarity. It signals control. Replacing habits requires patience with yourself. Change happens gradually. Expect progress, not perfection. Each disciplined response counts. Momentum builds quietly. Over time, emotional habits lose strength. Thoughtful responses become automatic. Discipline becomes natural. What once required effort becomes identity. This process changes how you experience life. Stress feels manageable. Challenges feel navigable. You trust yourself to respond well. This trust is freedom. Replacing emotional habits with thoughtful, disciplined responses is an act of leadership over your inner world. You stop living on reaction and start living by design. Each disciplined choice shapes character. Character shapes destiny. Stay committed to the process. The rewards are steady, calm, respect, and self-command. These are earned through daily discipline, not emotional impulse. When discipline replaces habit, emotions become guides, not rulers. You remain human, but you are no longer controlled by momentary states. You act with intention, clarity, and strength. This is how emotional mastery becomes real. One response at a time, chosen deliberately, until discipline becomes who you are. Chapter 6a. Train your mind to stay steady under pressure. Pressure reveals who you have trained yourself to be when comfort is removed. Staying steady under pressure is not a personality trait reserved for a few. It is a trained ability built through intention, repetition, and discipline. Pressure itself is not the enemy. The loss of mental control under pressure is. When the mind collapses, stress takes command, decisions narrow, and emotions spike. Training steadiness means preparing the mind to remain clear when conditions are demanding, unpredictable, or uncomfortable. Pressure often arrives suddenly. A deadline closes in, conflict appears without warning, expectations rise, stakes increase. The untrained mind reacts by rushing, tightening, and seeking escape. This reaction reduces performance and increases emotional strain. A trained mind responds by slowing, focusing, and prioritizing what matters. This difference determines outcomes. Steadiness begins with acceptance. Pressure is a natural part of growth, responsibility, and meaningful work. Resisting pressure creates tension before action even begins. Acceptance removes friction. When you expect pressure, you meet it calmly rather than with surprise. Calm expectation prepares the mind. Training the mind requires exposing it to manageable pressure regularly. Avoidance weakens resilience. Controlled challenge strengthens it. This does not mean seeking chaos. It means choosing situations that stretch focus, patience, and emotional control. Each exposure teaches the mind that pressure is survivable and manageable. Mental steadiness is supported by attention control. Under pressure, attention scatters. Thoughts jump to worst-case scenarios, distractions, and doubts. Training involves bringing attention back to the present task repeatedly. Focus on what is immediately in front of you. This reduces overwhelm and restores effectiveness. Another key element is breathing discipline. Under pressure, breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This signals threat to the body. Slowing the breath sends the opposite signal. A steady breath stabilizes heart rate and mental clarity. This physiological regulation supports mental steadiness. The mind also needs clear priorities under pressure. When everything feels urgent, nothing is handled well. Decide what matters most in the moment. Direct effort there. Let secondary concerns wait. This simplifies complexity and reduces stress. Self-talk plays a critical role. Under pressure, the inner voice often becomes harsh or fearful. Training involves guiding that voice deliberately. Use language that emphasizes capability and focus. Replace catastrophic thinking with grounded statements. This keeps the mind functional. Steadiness also depends on preparation. Skills practiced in calm conditions hold under stress. Rehearse responses to challenging scenarios. Visualize staying composed. Mental rehearsal strengthens neural pathways that support calm action when pressure arrives. Another practice is maintaining physical stability. Proper posture, grounded stance, and relaxed muscles influence mental state. Physical control supports mental control. Under pressure, return to physical basics. Stand firmly, relax shoulders, breathe evenly. Pressure tests emotional habits. It exposes impatience, defensiveness, and avoidance. Awareness of these tendencies allows correction. When you notice these impulses, do not follow them. Choose steadiness instead. Each choice strengthens control. Training steadiness also involves managing energy. Fatigue lowers resilience. Rest, nutrition, and movement support mental endurance. A depleted system struggles under pressure. Caring for the body is part of mental training. Perspective is another stabilizer. Pressure often feels intense because the mind exaggerates consequences. Step back mentally. Ask whether the situation will matter long term. This reduces emotional weight and restores balance. Steady minds do not rush decisions. They gather necessary information, then act deliberately. Speed is not always strength. Precision often matters more. Under pressure, choose accuracy over haste. Training also includes learning to tolerate discomfort. Pressure is uncomfortable by nature. Resisting discomfort increases stress. Accepting it allows functioning despite it. Comfort is not required for competence. Calm under pressure also improves communication. You speak clearly, listen carefully, and respond thoughtfully. This reduces conflict and increases trust. Others feel reassured by steadiness, which can stabilize entire situations. Mistakes under pressure are learning opportunities. Review them without self-attack. Identify where steadiness broke down. Adjust training accordingly. Growth comes from honest review. Steadiness is reinforced by values. When actions are guided by clear principles, pressure loses its power to confuse. Values provide direction when emotions fluctuate. This clarity anchors behavior. Another important practice is limiting mental clutter. Under pressure, simplify. Focus on essentials. Eliminate unnecessary inputs. Clarity thrives in simplicity. Steady minds also know when to pause. A brief pause under pressure can prevent escalation. It allows recalibration. Pausing is a strategic move, not a retreat. Training steadiness requires patience. Progress is gradual. Expect improvement, not perfection. Each pressure situation handled well builds confidence. Confidence supports future steadiness. Over time, pressure becomes familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. The mind learns it can endure and perform. Steadiness does not mean lack of emotion. Emotions may still arise. The difference is they no longer dictate behavior. Calm action becomes the default. This training changes how you experience challenges. Instead of dreading pressure, you approach it with readiness. You trust your ability to stay composed. This trust reduces anxiety. Steady minds recover quickly. When shaken, they regain balance faster. Recovery speed matters more than avoiding disturbance. This resilience is built through practice. Training the mind to stay steady under pressure improves leadership performance and personal peace. Others rely on those who remain composed. You become a source of stability. This discipline also enhances creativity. Calm minds think clearly even under constraint. Pressure becomes a catalyst rather than a barrier. Consistency is key. Practice steadiness daily. Use minor stressors as training. Each moment is preparation for larger tests. Steadiness under pressure is not about controlling the environment. It is about controlling response. This control is earned through discipline. When pressure arrives, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to your level of training. Train deliberately. A steady mind is a powerful asset. It protects clarity, dignity, and effectiveness. Under pressure, it chooses wisely rather than reacting blindly. This ability transforms stress into strength. You remain centered, focused, and capable. Pressure no longer defines you. Your training does. This is how mental steadiness becomes a permanent trait, built patiently, practiced daily, and proven when pressure demands your best. Chapter 7 says accept uncomfortable emotions without judging or escaping them. The moment you stop running from uncomfortable emotions is the moment they stop controlling your life. Discomfort is not a flaw in your emotional system. It is a signal that something meaningful is happening inside you. Yet most people are trained to escape it immediately. They distract, numb, rationalize, blame, or suppress the moment discomfort appears. This habit creates long-term emotional weakness because what you avoid does not disappear. It waits. It grows. It returns with more force later. Accepting uncomfortable emotions does not mean enjoying them or agreeing with them. It means allowing them to exist without turning them into a problem that must be solved instantly. Many emotional struggles come not from the feeling itself, but from the resistance to it. Resistance adds tension, judgment adds shame, and escape adds delay. Acceptance removes these layers and leaves only the raw emotion, which is usually manageable when faced directly. Uncomfortable emotions include sadness, fear, disappointment, frustration, guilt, loneliness, and uncertainty. These feelings are part of being alive and engaged with life. They often arise when something matters. Trying to eliminate them is like trying to live without friction. It is unrealistic and unnecessary. Strength comes from learning how to carry discomfort without being shaped by it. Judging emotions creates inner conflict. When you label a feeling as wrong, weak, or unacceptable, you turn against your own experience. This inner conflict drains energy and clouds understanding. Acceptance begins with neutrality. The emotion is neither good nor bad. It is simply present. This neutral stance allows observation without distortion. Escaping emotions delays growth. Avoidance provides temporary relief but prevents learning. Each uncomfortable emotion carries information about needs, boundaries, values, or change. When you escape, you miss the lesson. When you accept, you gain insight. Insight leads to adjustment, and adjustment leads to emotional maturity. Acceptance requires slowing down. Discomfort often feels urgent and intense. Slowing attention allows the emotion to be felt fully without amplification. When you sit with a feeling and breathe steadily, you notice that emotions change over time. They rise, peak, and fall. This experience builds trust in your ability to handle emotional waves. The body plays a central role in acceptance. Uncomfortable emotions often show up physically as tension, pressure, heat, or restlessness. Instead of trying to push these sensations away, allow them space. Notice where they are located. Notice how they shift. This embodied awareness grounds the mind and prevents spiraling thoughts. Acceptance also means letting go of the need to explain emotions immediately. The mind wants reasons and stories. These stories can intensify feelings unnecessarily. Sometimes the most disciplined response is to feel without explanation. Clarity often comes later after the emotion has settled. Not judging emotions does not mean acting on them. Acceptance is internal allowance, not external expression. You can feel anger without speaking harshly. You can feel fear without avoiding action. You can feel sadness without withdrawing from life. This separation between feeling and behavior is crucial. Escaping emotions often looks productive on the surface. Staying busy seeking stimulation or focusing outward may seem functional, but unprocessed emotions leak into behavior, tone, and decisions. Acceptance prevents this leakage by addressing emotions directly. Accepting discomfort builds emotional resilience. Each time you face an uncomfortable feeling without running, you prove to yourself that you are capable. This confidence reduces fear of future emotions. You stop dreading emotional experiences because you trust your ability to handle them. This practice also improves decision-making. When emotions are accepted, they become clearer and less reactive. Decisions made from clarity are more aligned with values. Decisions made from avoidance are often driven by fear. Acceptance requires patience. Emotions do not operate on schedules. Trying to rush them prolongs them. Allowing them to unfold naturally shortens their duration. This is counterintuitive but consistently true. Another aspect of acceptance is dropping comparison. Comparing your emotional responses to others creates unnecessary pressure. Everyone processes emotions differently. There is no correct timeline. Acceptance respects individual rhythm. Uncomfortable emotions often soften when acknowledged verbally or internally. Saying "I feel this" without judgment reduces intensity. Language used gently calms the nervous system. Acceptance also reduces emotional fatigue. Fighting feelings consumes energy. Allowing them conserves it. This energy can be redirected toward constructive action once clarity returns. This discipline strengthens relationships. When you accept your own emotions, you become less reactive to others. You listen better. You respond with empathy rather than defensiveness. Emotional acceptance creates emotional safety. Avoiding judgment also means not labeling emotions as permanent. Emotions are states, not identities. Accepting them as temporary experiences prevents self-definition based on feeling. Acceptance also supports mental health. Chronic avoidance contributes to anxiety and stress. Acceptance reduces internal struggle. This does not eliminate challenges, but changes how they are experienced. The practice of acceptance must be gentle. Forcing yourself to accept creates another form of resistance. Approach emotions with curiosity rather than control. Ask what this feeling needs. Often the answer is attention, not action. Accepting discomfort does not mean isolating yourself. Sharing emotions appropriately with trusted people can support acceptance. Speaking honestly reduces shame and normalizes experience. Acceptance also involves letting go of perfection. Expecting emotional control at all times is unrealistic. Accepting moments of vulnerability builds resilience rather than weakness. Over time, acceptance changes your relationship with discomfort. What once felt threatening becomes familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. Reduced fear increases steadiness. This practice does not remove pain from life. It removes unnecessary suffering created by resistance. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering is optional. Accepting uncomfortable emotions also deepens self-understanding. You learn what matters, what hurts, and what motivates you. This knowledge guides personal growth. Emotional acceptance supports courage. Fear loses power when it is faced calmly. Courage grows not from absence of fear, but from acceptance of it. This discipline also enhances focus. When emotions are accepted, they stop demanding attention. The mind regains capacity to engage with tasks. Acceptance requires daily practice. Use small moments of discomfort as training. Each moment builds capacity. Over time, acceptance becomes instinctive. You feel emotions fully without panic or escape. This balance is emotional maturity. Accepting uncomfortable emotions without judging or escaping them is a profound form of self-respect. You allow yourself to be human without losing direction. This practice brings inner stability. You no longer fear your inner world. You navigate it with confidence and calm. When you stop fighting discomfort, you gain freedom. Freedom from avoidance patterns. Freedom from emotional chaos. Freedom to act with clarity. This acceptance transforms discomfort into a teacher rather than an enemy. Each feeling becomes a guide toward deeper understanding. Mastery of emotions begins here. Not by control or suppression, but by calm acceptance. When you accept what you feel, you stop being afraid of it. When fear ends, growth begins. Chapter 80. Set clear boundaries to protect your emotional energy. Guarding your emotional energy is the single most practical act of self-leadership you can take right now. Boundaries are the lines you draw around your time, attention, and presence, so you can show up fully without being drained by other people's demands or moods. They are not walls to keep people out. but rules that protect your capacity to think, act, and feel in ways that reflect your priorities. Clear boundaries make relationships healthier because they remove guesswork and reduce resentments that build up quietly over time. Most people drift through life with weak or unclear boundaries and then wonder why they feel exhausted or taken for granted. A boundary begins with knowing what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate, and being honest with yourself about where your limit lies. Start by listing situations that leave you depleted and note what exactly about them drains you, whether it is constant criticism, excessive requests, or emotional drama. When you can name the specific behaviors that sap energy, you are ready to design responses that stop those behaviors from repeating. Boundaries need language that is simple, firm, and respectful so other people understand the change without feeling attacked. Practice short, clear phrases you can use in difficult moments, such as "I can't take that on right now," or "I'm not comfortable discussing this at the moment." Tone matters more than volume, so deliver boundaries calmly to avoid turning the message into a confrontation. Body language reinforces words, so stand tall, keep your shoulders relaxed, and use steady eye contact when asserting limits. Digital boundaries are now essential because constant connectivity makes it easy for others to occupy your attention without permission. Decide when you will respond to messages, what channels are for urgent matters, and what platforms you will check, and then stick to those rules. Use features like Do Not Disturb, scheduled vacations, and notification limits to make these digital commitments real and automatic. Saying no is a skill, not a moral failing, and practicing short, direct refusals builds confidence and clarity. When you decline, do it without over-explaining. A brief explanation is fine, but avoid lengthy defenses which invite negotiation. Remember that every yes given under pressure is a no to something else that matters to you. Protecting emotional energy includes protecting your calendar and your attention as fiercely as you protect your finances or health. Create regular times for rest-focused work and social connection, and treat those appointments with the same respect you would a professional commitment. When others push back, expect testing, because setting new boundaries will reveal who respects your growth and who prefers the old patterns. Respond to testing with calm repetition, not anger, because consistency teaches faster than argument. If someone repeatedly crosses a clear limit, then follow through with a pre-decided consequence, such as stepping away, reducing contact, or removing yourself from the situation. Consequences are not punishment. They are necessary signals that your boundaries are sincere and that relationships must adjust if they are to remain healthy. It is also important to balance firmness with empathy, because strong boundaries do not require coldness. You can be clear about what you will accept while still acknowledging another person's feelings and perspective. Words like "I understand this is hard for you" and "I appreciate that you feel upset" make enforcement kinder, yet remain decisive. Boundary work requires ongoing calibration because life changes, and so will your needs and limits. Review your standards periodically and make adjustments when your responsibilities, energy levels, or values shift. Teach others what you need instead of hoping they will guess correctly, and model the behavior you want to receive by respecting their limits as well. Children, co-workers, and friends learn boundaries by example more than by lecture, so practice what you preach. Boundaries also protect your inner life by limiting exposure to toxic or draining influences. This can mean reducing time with people who constantly criticize, who are emotionally manipulative, or who thrive on drama. It can also mean curating the media and content you consume so that your inner environment is not constantly agitated by outrage or comparison. Pay attention to whether certain interactions leave you feeling small, dismissed, or anxious, and treat that information as data guiding your choices. Setting limits around emotional labor is crucial, because offering support should not become an endless obligation that erodes your capacity to care. Decide what level of support you can offer realistically and communicate it clearly without guilt. It is acceptable to set boundaries even with people you love, because preserving your well-being makes you more available in the long run. Practice boundary language in low-stakes scenarios first, like declining additional social events or limiting small favors, until the habit becomes natural in harder conversations. When a boundary conversation goes poorly, stay calm, restate the boundary, and end the interaction if necessary. Avoid bargaining for approval or trying to win agreement, because you are establishing what serves your life, not seeking permission to live it. Boundary maintenance includes tending to your internal responses, because guilt, anxiety, or fear can sabotage enforcement. A quick checklist helps. Remind yourself why the boundary exists, acknowledge discomfort, and then proceed with the action you planned. Reinforce new patterns by noting small wins and by rewarding yourself for choosing long-term well-being over short-term approval. Keep a private log of boundary tests and outcomes so you can track progress and adjust strategies when needed. When someone resists a boundary, it is often because they benefited from your previous unavailability to set limits. That resistance says more about their dependency than about your value, and should not deter you from protecting your energy. Boundaries do not erase conflict, but they change its shape and reduce its frequency by preventing predictable triggers. They free you to invest attention into people, projects, and practices that align with your goals and values. Part of effective boundary setting is communicating the positive outcomes of the limit for both parties, such as having more focused time together, fewer resentful exchanges, and clearer expectations. This reframing can reduce defensiveness and make cooperation more likely. When boundaries are violated repeatedly, consider the overall cost of the relationship and the possibility that distance may be the healthiest choice. Distance is sometimes an act of care, especially when proximity continually undermines your emotional stability. Create buffer practices to protect energy in the moment, like stepping outside, taking 3 controlled breaths, or briefly changing the subject until you can return to the conversation on your terms. Small rituals like these interrupt escalation and preserve clarity so you can respond rather than react. Teach your children and close colleagues about boundaries by explaining them, simply showing how you apply them, and allowing them to practice setting their own. This creates a culture of mutual respect and reduces the generational pattern of boundary neglect. Respect for your limits also comes from modeling consistent follow-through, not from occasional assertions washed away by exceptions. Say yes deliberately and say no freely, and you will find that your life begins to reflect your priorities more clearly. Protecting emotional energy is an ongoing practice that invites patience, persistence, and occasional courage. It will not always be easy, and some relationships will change, but the space you gain will allow you to be more present, effective, and generous where it truly counts. When you set clear boundaries, you reclaim time, focus, and peace, and you prove to yourself that your inner life matters enough to defend. That clarity is the soil where purposeful living grows, and it begins with a single firm decision to protect what energizes you most. Chapter 9. Practice emotional discipline through consistent daily routines. Emotional discipline is earned through small daily habits practiced without drama. Start each morning with a brief ritual that frames the day instead of letting the day frame you. Sit quietly for 3 minutes, breathe evenly, and choose 3 intentions that reflect values rather than impulses. State them aloud or write them in one short line so they become anchors during moments of stress. When pressure arrives, you will not need to invent steadiness because you will have already chosen it for the day. Build a brief movement practice into every morning to regulate energy and reduce reactivity. 10 minutes of stretching, walking, or simple bodyweight exercises wakes the nervous system in a steady way and gives the mind a clear starting point. Physical activation stabilizes emotion by shifting blood flow and releasing tension that often masquerades as hostility or anxiety. Pair movement with a focused breathing pattern to make calm a learned reflex. Practice inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 2, and exhaling for 6. Repeat this sequence 3 times before you begin work. Over time, the body remembers that pattern and will return to it when you need composure fast. Create a single place for quick emotional reset during the day. This could be a chair, a small corner, or even a short walk outside. When emotions spike, step into that space for 30 seconds to 1 minute. Name the feeling silently, take one controlled breath, and then either act or return to task. Training a default reset location removes the habit of reacting immediately in public or in conversations. Use micro-journaling to record triggers and responses as they occur. Keep a private note on your phone or a tiny notebook and log short entries that answer 3 questions: what happened, what I felt, and what I chose to do. Limit each entry to 1 or 2 sentences. This habit builds precision in how you see emotional cause and effect, and over weeks it reveals patterns that are invisible in the moment. Design an end-of-work pause that separates professional stress from personal life. Spend 5 minutes reviewing the day, listing 1 achievement and 1 lesson, then physically close the work area by shutting a laptop or clearing the desk. This physical transition signals to your nervous system that the work chapter is over and reduces carryover reactivity at home. Schedule daily exposure to manageable discomfort to expand tolerance. This could be a short cold shower, a brief public speaking practice, or a challenging conversation rehearsed calmly. The goal is not to seek suffering, but to normalize uneven feelings so they no longer hijack decision-making when they appear unexpectedly. Practice a nightly mental download that clears unresolved emotion before sleep. Spend 10 minutes writing what still feels incomplete, what you are worried about, and 1 small next step to move forward if action is needed. Ending the day by reducing mental clutter improves sleep quality and lowers the likelihood of emotional hangovers the next morning. Create clear rules for digital consumption that protect mood. Decide specific times for checking social media, email, and news, and stick to them. Turn off non-essential notifications and use a single app or device for focused tasks. Reducing digital noise prevents reactive spikes caused by comparison, outrage, and information overload. Use habit stacking to attach a new emotional discipline to an existing reliable habit. For example, after you brush your teeth, take 3 grounding breaths. After you finish lunch, pause for 1 minute of gratitude. After a difficult meeting, write 1 line in your micro-journal. This method links discipline to automatic routines, so over time it becomes effortless. Identify 2 key triggers that most often derail you and create scripted responses for each. Keep the script short and practical. For a trigger tied to criticism, respond with "I hear that, I will consider it," and then pause to reflect. For a trigger tied to overload, respond with "I need a moment," and then step into your reset space. Scripts reduce cognitive load during emotional pressure and increase follow-through. Practice consistent sleep hygiene because emotional regulation depends on recovery. Set a firm bedtime routine, limit caffeine and screens before sleep, and aim for a consistent wake time, even on weekends. When physical stamina is supported, the mind tolerates discomfort with more ease. Build a weekly review session where you examine emotional wins and misses without judgment. Use this time to refine scripts, update intentions, and plan 1 targeted practice for the coming week. Regular review accelerates learning because it turns isolated events into a coherent training program. Create small accountability partnerships to reinforce practice. Share 1 measurable habit with a trusted friend and ask for a weekly check-in. The social element increases commitment and offers an external mirror when you are too close to your own patterns. Use immediate physical anchors when emotion rises. Grounding techniques like feeling the floor beneath your feet, focusing on a single object in the room, or pressing your fingertips together bring attention out of spiraling thought and into controlled action. These anchors are simple tools you can use anywhere to interrupt automatic escalation. Introduce brief moments of gratitude into the day to rebalance perspective. Choose 1 concrete detail rather than a vague statement and name it precisely. Gratitude practiced habitually does not erase difficulty, but it reduces the dominance of negative affect and fosters a more resilient baseline. Limit exposure to people or environments that consistently deplete you while you build strength. This is not avoidance, it is strategic training. Reduce time with draining influences gradually and substitute interactions that nourish or challenge you constructively. Energy management is a core part of emotional discipline. Train decisive action by practicing small wins. Set a modest daily target related to work, health, or kindness and complete it before noon. Early accomplishment builds momentum and reduces the temptation to use emotion as an excuse for avoidance. Use language that reinforces agency. Replace vague statements about feeling overwhelmed with precise actions such as "I am stepping away for 10 minutes to reset." Language that focuses on choice strengthens the neural circuitry of control. Celebrate discipline quietly. Acknowledge progress with small rewards that do not undermine your goals, like a restorative walk, a favorite book, or a nourishing meal. Recognition helps sustain practice and prevents burnout from unrelenting effort. Above all, make routines flexible enough to adapt, but rigid enough to produce change. Emotional discipline grows when structure guides you, but when structure becomes brittle, it fails. Adjust practices as life shifts and prioritize consistency over perfection. When these daily routines become habitual, emotion no longer hijacks your agenda. You think with clarity, act with purpose, and feel with honesty because your life has been arranged to support skillful responses. The work of emotional discipline is simple to describe and challenging to sustain, but each day of consistent practice compounds into a steady, unshakable capacity to live with intention. Chapter 100. Respond with intention instead of reacting from impulse. Every powerful life is built on the ability to respond deliberately rather than react impulsively. Impulse is the enemy of clarity. It hijacks reasoning, amplifies emotion, and often leads to regret. Responding with intention requires slowing down the internal reflex that demands immediate action. This is not weakness or hesitation, it is mastery. It is choosing the course of action that aligns with your values and long-term goals instead of giving energy to short-term urges. Every impulsive reaction you have trained reinforces habit. Every intentional response you make strengthens control. The first step toward intentional response is awareness. Notice the internal cues that precede reactive behavior. Rapid heartbeat, rising tension, or racing thoughts signal that impulse is on the verge of taking control. Recognizing these signs before action allows a moment of pause. This pause is the seed of mastery. Without noticing, impulses act automatically and you remain at their mercy. Next comes assessment. Ask yourself, what is the most constructive outcome here? What aligns with my values? How do I want this situation to unfold? These questions redirect energy from reactive emotion into deliberate thinking. The answers may not come instantly, and that is precisely why the pause matters. Giving yourself even a few seconds before acting disrupts the automatic chain that leads to regret. Intentional response requires discipline in observation. Emotions will arise naturally: anger, frustration, excitement, fear, but they do not have to dictate your behavior. Observe them without judgment and let them pass through your awareness. Reacting immediately gives power to the emotion. Observing it first gives you power over it. Over time, this practice rewires your nervous system to respond rather than react. Creating mental scripts in advance is another key strategy. Identify recurring scenarios that trigger impulsive reactions, such as criticism, stress, or confrontation. Plan responses that are calm, clear, and aligned with your principles. Rehearsing these responses strengthens your ability to act intentionally when pressure strikes. The mind prefers preparedness to improvisation when stakes are high. Breathing is a simple yet powerful tool for buying time and resetting focus. When impulses surge, a deep, measured breath can slow your nervous system, clear your mind, and create a moment of space. This pause allows you to choose words and actions deliberately instead of being swept by the automatic pull of emotion. Consistent practice makes this response instinctive. Intentional response also involves valuing long-term outcomes over short-term satisfaction. Impulse thrives on immediate gratification, but consequences often follow that diminish trust, peace, or opportunity. Each time you choose intention over reaction, you reinforce a pattern of forward-thinking behavior. The rewards compound quietly and powerfully over time. Physical habits support intentionality. When body tension is managed, the mind is more stable. Regular exercise, stretching, and mindful posture all contribute to greater control in critical moments. When impulses arise, a grounded body amplifies the mind's ability to pause and choose. Discipline of the body reinforces discipline of the mind. Language plays a central role in acting intentionally. Avoid words that escalate or surrender control. Replace "I can't handle this" with "I am choosing a calm response." Replace "You make me angry" with "I notice my reaction and will act deliberately." Language shapes perception, and perception guides action. Thoughtful phrasing internalizes control. Intentional responses are often brief and precise. They do not require over-explaining or justifying. Clarity communicates strength and composure. Excessive verbalizing often signals uncertainty or reactivity. Minimal, deliberate responses convey presence, confidence, and alignment with principle. Consistently choosing intention requires examining triggers without self-criticism. Each impulsive reaction observed is a learning opportunity. Identify the circumstances, thoughts, and sensations that led to the reaction, and use them to refine future responses. Growth emerges from reflection combined with practice. Accountability enhances progress. Share your intention to respond thoughtfully with a mentor or partner who can observe and provide feedback. External perspective reinforces internal change and encourages consistency. The mind responds to social reinforcement as strongly as internal motivation. Another essential element is emotional stamina. Impulses thrive when the mind is fatigued or overstimulated. Adequate rest, nutrition, and mental downtime improve the ability to respond thoughtfully. Emotional discipline requires energy, and energy is earned through daily care. Intentional response transforms relationships. When others see that you respond thoughtfully, they trust you more. Conversations become constructive instead of reactive. Conflicts resolve faster because calm presence diffuses tension. Emotional influence grows not through force but through steadiness. Patience is critical. The first moments after a stimulus are most tempting for impulsive behavior. A deliberate pause, even 2 or 3 seconds, interrupts the automatic flow and allows reasoning to guide action. Each repeated pause strengthens the neural pathway for intentionality. Intentional response is not about suppressing emotions. It is about channeling them wisely. Anger can become motivation, fear can sharpen awareness, and excitement can inspire creativity. Emotions inform action, but intentionality decides how they shape behavior. Daily reflection solidifies this skill. At the end of each day, review moments where impulse emerged. Note when you acted intentionally and when you fell into reaction. Recognize triggers and celebrate wins. This process builds insight and reinforces conscious choice. Intentionality also requires flexibility. Not every situation allows perfect execution. Adaptation and discernment matter. The mind learns to evaluate context, prioritize outcomes, and select the response that balances principle with practicality. Over time, this skill becomes instinctive. Visualization strengthens the practice. Imagine challenging scenarios and rehearse calm, deliberate responses. Mentally experiencing composure prepares the mind and body to act the same way in real life. This mental rehearsal primes the nervous system for controlled execution. Responding with intention cultivates self-respect. Each choice reinforces identity. I am someone who acts with awareness, not habit. The more consistently you honor this identity, the easier future deliberate responses become. Self-trust grows silently yet powerfully. Intentional action under pressure also enhances problem solving. When impulses are suspended, the mind accesses rational analysis, creativity, and perspective. Decisions made from calm evaluation are consistently more effective than those driven by urgency. The habit of reflection paired with small, deliberate actions creates momentum. Each intentional response strengthens neural pathways and weakens automatic reactive patterns. Over time, intentional behavior becomes the default mode, and impulse loses its grip. Intentional responses inspire others. When you act thoughtfully in tense moments, colleagues, friends, and family mirror composure. Leadership is not imposed but demonstrated. Influence grows quietly but profoundly. Finally, practicing intentional response transforms life itself. Decisions made with care compound into trust, stability, and opportunity. Impulsive reactions create chaos, but deliberate choices create trajectory. By choosing intentionally, you shape character, relationships, and destiny. Responding with intention instead of reacting impulsively is a lifelong skill, strengthened through awareness, practice, reflection, and discipline. Each conscious choice reinforces mastery, and each mastered moment builds the foundation for a life lived with clarity, purpose, and unwavering presence. Chapter 11. Calm your nervous system using simple breathing practices. Your breath is the single most powerful tool to regain control of your mind and body instantly. The nervous system is constantly responding to internal and external signals, but most people live disconnected from it, reacting to stress without awareness. Learning to regulate the nervous system through simple breathing practices gives you direct influence over your emotional state, mental clarity, and physical well-being. Every emotion, every spike of stress, every surge of anxiety is accompanied by a change in breathing. Shallow, rapid breaths signal the body that danger is present, even when the threat is only perceived. Controlled breathing communicates the opposite: safety, clarity, and calm. Start by noticing your natural breath. Observe its rhythm, depth, and speed without trying to change anything. This awareness alone activates the parasympathetic nervous system and begins the process of calming your internal state. Most people breathe from the chest, short and shallow, especially when anxious. Deep diaphragmatic breathing fills the lungs fully, expands the belly, and signals your brain to relax. This simple shift lays the foundation for emotional regulation. A practical exercise is box breathing. Inhale slowly for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4. Repeat this cycle 5 to 10 times. Each phase of the cycle trains patience and reinforces control over the body's natural reflexes. It interrupts habitual stress responses and replaces them with deliberate patterns that calm nerves and steady the mind. Alternate nostril breathing is another effective practice. Close one nostril, inhale deeply through the other, switch nostrils and exhale slowly. Repeat for several cycles. This technique balances the nervous system and encourages a sense of centeredness. It also enhances focus and mental clarity, making it easier to approach problems with calm decision-making instead of impulsive reactions. Breath retention is a subtle yet powerful tool. Holding the breath briefly after inhalation signals the body to slow down. It trains tolerance for mild discomfort, which translates to emotional steadiness in daily life. Start small, holding for 2 to 3 seconds, and gradually extend as comfort grows. Controlled retention strengthens both physical resilience and mental discipline. Counting breaths can create rhythm and focus. Inhale for a count of 5, exhale for a count of 5, and silently note each completed cycle. Counting anchors the mind and prevents it from wandering to stressful thoughts. When practiced regularly, this technique improves concentration, reduces racing thoughts, and cultivates emotional balance. Breathing practices work best when paired with posture. Sit or stand upright, shoulders relaxed, spine straight. This alignment allows the lungs to expand fully and the diaphragm to move freely. Poor posture restricts breathing and perpetuates tension in both body and mind. Small adjustments in posture amplify the effects of each breath and create a stable internal foundation for calm. Integrate breath pauses into your daily routine. Take 3 deep breaths before responding to messages, entering meetings, or starting complex tasks. This micro-practice prevents reactive patterns from taking over and trains the nervous system to default to steadiness. Over time, these micro-pauses become automatic, reducing stress without conscious effort. Visualization enhances breathing practices. While inhaling, imagine drawing calm into every cell of your body. As you exhale, release tension, worry, or discomfort. Linking breath to imagery intensifies relaxation and reinforces a positive neural response. This practice is especially useful before challenging situations like high-stakes conversations or stressful deadlines. Progressive breath awareness throughout the day strengthens the skill. Take a moment in the morning to perform several cycles of deep, slow breathing. Repeat midday to reset focus and evening to prepare for restorative sleep. Consistency trains the nervous system to recognize calm as the default state instead of stress as inevitable. Combine breath with sound when appropriate. Hum or chant softly during exhalation. Vibrational resonance activates the vagus nerve and enhances parasympathetic response. Even a brief hum for 10 to 20 seconds can reduce tension and improve heart rate variability, both markers of nervous system stability. Physical cues reinforce breathing discipline. Place a hand on your chest and another on your belly. Feel the movement of each inhale and exhale. This tactile connection strengthens mind-body integration, making calming practices more effective and intuitive. Breathing patterns are adaptable. In moments of acute stress, fast rhythmic breathing can release pent-up energy, followed by slow, controlled breaths to restore calm. Learning to shift between patterns intentionally develops mastery over both physiological and emotional reactions. Emotional awareness combined with breath control deepens resilience. Notice the emotion present, name it internally, and use slow diaphragmatic breathing to observe without being swept away. This process creates distance between feeling and reaction, allowing deliberate choices to emerge. Integrate breath with movement to amplify results. Gentle yoga stretches or slow walking synchronized with deep breaths improve oxygenation, reduce tension, and cultivate steady emotional states. Coordinating body and breath develops a holistic sense of control over stress and enhances focus. Sleep quality improves when breath practices are consistent. Performing 5 minutes of slow, rhythmic breathing before bed signals the nervous system to shift toward rest. This reduces insomnia, decreases nighttime anxiety, and allows the mind to process the day calmly. Breathing can also be a tool during interpersonal challenges. When confronted with criticism, anger, or conflict, 1 or 2 deep breaths before speaking prevents defensive or reactive responses. This pause creates space for clear, intentional communication and protects emotional energy. Micro practices are powerful. Even 10 seconds of slow, steady breathing before answering a question or entering a room can reset internal state. The nervous system responds immediately, and repeated micro practices compound into permanent regulation habits. Tracking progress reinforces consistency. Note moments when breathing practices help reduce tension, enhance focus, or prevent emotional escalation. Journaling these observations strengthens commitment and encourages refinement of techniques. Over time, simple breathing practices transform internal experience. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, clarity replaces chaos, and emotional reactions shift from automatic to deliberate. The nervous system becomes a tool under conscious control instead of a source of constant reactivity. Regular practice strengthens resilience against stress, improves decision-making, enhances creativity, and cultivates calm confidence. Each breath is both a reset and a training moment. Through dedication, breathing becomes a pathway to mastery of emotions, mental clarity, and steady presence in all areas of life. Calming the nervous system with simple, intentional breathing is a skill accessible to anyone, anywhere, and at any time. It transforms how the body, mind, and emotions interact, allowing for stability, focus, and purposeful action even in the most demanding situations. When the breath is controlled, the mind is calm, emotions are steady, and life can be approached with clarity and strength. Chapter 12. Develop patience by slowing down emotional decision-making. Patience is not a weakness but a superpower that transforms impulsive choices into deliberate results. Every day, emotions push us toward decisions that feel urgent yet often misalign with our long-term goals. The instinct to act quickly is deeply ingrained because our brain equates speed with survival, but modern challenges rarely require immediate action. Slowing down emotional decision-making is essential for clarity, stability, and outcomes that reflect wisdom rather than reflex. It is the difference between regret and confidence, chaos and composure, short-term relief and sustainable growth. The first step toward cultivating patience is recognizing the triggers that provoke urgency. Anger, fear, excitement, and disappointment all accelerate decision-making. Notice physical cues, tension in the shoulders, quickened heartbeat, shallow breathing, or racing thoughts. These signals are opportunities to pause, not reasons to act. Awareness allows you to step out of automatic patterns and introduce deliberate timing into your choices. Once triggers are identified, create intentional pauses. Even a 3-second pause can interrupt habitual reactive behavior. Use this brief moment to breathe deeply, observe the emotion present, and ask yourself what the most constructive next step might be. These seconds accumulate over time, rewiring the mind to prefer reflection over reaction. Delaying action does not mean avoidance. It means giving thought, perspective, and evaluation priority over immediacy. Write down potential options and consider the consequences of each. Asking what outcome aligns with your values provides direction and reduces the risk of decisions driven by fleeting emotional intensity. Mindfulness strengthens patience by keeping you present in the moment rather than being swept away by anticipatory fear or desire. Observing the mind without judgment allows thoughts and feelings to flow without compelling instant action. Mindfulness meditation, even for 5 minutes a day, enhances this capacity by training attention and reducing impulsive habits. Journaling can support slower emotional decision-making. Record moments when emotion pressured immediate action and reflect on the results if you allowed yourself to pause instead. Compare outcomes of immediate reactions with those of measured responses. Over time, this process reveals patterns and builds trust in the power of patience. Visualization is another effective tool. Mentally rehearse high-stress scenarios and imagine responding calmly, weighing options before deciding. Visualizing measured responses prepares the nervous system and strengthens the neural pathways associated with deliberate action. This mental training makes real-life application smoother and more automatic. Develop a system for incremental evaluation. When a strong emotion arises, ask yourself, is this decision urgent? Will acting immediately create a better outcome? What additional information might clarify the choice? These questions slow the mind and transform instinct into insight. Use small behavioral practices to build patience gradually. Wait an extra minute before responding to messages. Sit silently for a few breaths before speaking during disagreements, or postpone minor purchases to evaluate need versus impulse. These micro-exercises extend your tolerance for waiting and reinforce self-control. Recognize that impatience often stems from fear of loss, failure, or missed opportunity. Slowing down decisions gives time to confront these fears rationally instead of letting them dictate action. Emotional patience is not denial of urgency, it is management of fear-driven reflexes. Deliberate emotional decision-making requires separating feeling from action. Feelings inform but do not dictate behavior. Label the emotion internally: anger, frustration, desire, or excitement. Then examine what choice reflects rational judgment rather than emotional surge. This separation reduces regret and increases the quality of outcomes. Incorporate physical grounding techniques to complement mental patience. Simple exercises like feeling the floor beneath your feet, tightening and releasing muscles, or focusing on tactile sensations bring attention away from the racing mind and towards steady presence. A grounded body facilitates deliberate mental processes. Accountability reinforces slower, intentional decisions. Share your intention to pause before acting with a mentor, friend, or colleague who can remind or observe you. Social reinforcement accelerates habit formation and maintains commitment when stress challenges discipline. Evaluate decisions from multiple perspectives. Emotional impulsivity often narrows perception. Ask, how will I feel about this decision in 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month? Consider the long-term consequences on relationships, goals, and self-respect. Perspective naturally slows response and strengthens thoughtful action. Use deep rhythmic breathing when emotions spike. Focused breathing lowers heart rate, reduces tension, and creates space for reflection. Combine this with counting to 10 or repeating a calming phrase to maintain focus on measured decision-making. Physiological regulation directly supports emotional patience. Embrace uncertainty as part of the process. Fear of the unknown often drives rushed choices. Accepting that clarity unfolds with time encourages restraint. Trust in the unfolding process allows patience to become a default stance rather than a forced effort. Daily routines support consistent patience. Schedule brief pauses between tasks, set limits on immediate responses to notifications, and allow unhurried transitions between activities. Structuring time reinforces the mental habit of measured response and reduces habitual rush. Reflect on previous decisions and their outcomes to strengthen learning. Recognize instances where pausing led to better results and celebrate the improvement. Conversely, examine rushed choices for lessons without self-criticism. This iterative process cultivates insight, reinforcing patience as a skill rather than a chore. Develop tolerance for delayed gratification. Emotional decisions often favor instant satisfaction, but long-term success requires postponing comfort for strategic outcomes. Practicing restraint in small ways, such as waiting to respond to emails or delaying minor purchases, builds the neural foundation for larger emotional self-control. Intentional conversation practices enhance patience. When interacting with others, practice listening fully before responding. Refrain from interrupting or filling silence. Allowing the conversation to unfold slowly provides more accurate understanding and reduces emotionally driven miscommunication. Recognize that patience is cumulative. Each moment of restraint compounds into greater capacity for measured decisions. Each time you pause before acting, your brain strengthens pathways associated with thoughtful action rather than impulsive reaction. This incremental growth builds emotional maturity steadily and reliably. Celebrating small wins reinforces habit. Acknowledge when you successfully slowed down a decision or responded thoughtfully instead of reacting immediately. Positive reinforcement strengthens neural circuits and encourages repetition. Patience in emotional decision-making enhances personal and professional relationships. Others sense steadiness, trust, and reliability. They respond in kind, creating interactions that are calm, constructive, and mutually beneficial. Impulsive reactions erode trust, while measured responses build credibility and respect. Learning patience transforms life itself. Emotional discipline fosters clarity, reduces stress, and improves outcomes. Deliberate decisions produce consistency in action, alignment with values, and stability in relationships. The simple act of slowing down before choosing is a profound investment in long-term success and resilience. Developing patience by slowing down emotional decision-making is not about inactivity, it is about training the mind to respond with wisdom rather than reflex. Every pause, every breath, every moment of reflection strengthens the foundation for confident, deliberate, and effective action in all areas of life. Chapter 13. Use self-talk to guide emotions toward clarity. The words you speak to yourself shape the way you feel, think, and act more than anything else in your life. Self-talk is the silent conversation that runs continuously inside your mind, and it holds the power to either calm chaos or fuel confusion. Most people allow negative or reactive thoughts to dominate this inner dialogue without realizing it, letting stress, fear, or frustration dictate their emotional state. Learning to guide emotions with intentional self-talk transforms not just how you feel in the moment, but how you respond, decide, and move forward each day. Every thought is a choice, and every word you tell yourself can either clarify or cloud your emotions. The first step is awareness. Notice the language you habitually use internally when challenges arise. Do you say, "I can't handle this," or "this is too much"? Do you replay past failures or anticipate worst-case scenarios? Observation creates insight. By bringing unconscious self-talk into conscious awareness, you gain the ability to intervene and redirect it toward clarity and composure. Replace reactive self-talk with deliberate guidance. For example, instead of saying, "I'm overwhelmed," try saying, "I will take one step at a time and focus on what I can control." This shifts the mind from panic to problem solving, from emotion-driven reaction to reasoned action. Words are not just descriptive, they are instructive. They direct attention, shape perception, and influence decision-making. Use present tense language in self-talk. Phrases like, "I am calm," or "I can handle this moment," anchor you in the present instead of projecting fear into the future. Past-focused statements such as "I failed before" trap emotion in regret, while future-focused statements like, "This might go wrong," amplify anxiety. Anchoring speech in the present moment stabilizes the nervous system and clarifies thought. Create self-talk scripts for recurring emotional triggers. Identify situations that repeatedly cause frustration, fear, or irritation. Develop concise phrases that remind you of your values, your control, and your desired emotional state. Repeating these scripts, when triggered, interrupts the habitual spiral of stress and provides a consistent method for regaining clarity. Pair self-talk with deep, steady breathing to strengthen its effect. When words are spoken internally in rhythm with controlled breath, the nervous system responds more rapidly, reducing tension and increasing focus. This combination trains both body and mind to align, creating a clear pathway for rational, intentional response instead of automatic reactivity. Visualization enhances self-talk. As you repeat calming or guiding phrases, imagine the scenario unfolding smoothly and emotionally balanced. Picture yourself responding with composure, speaking thoughtfully, and making clear decisions. Visualization reinforces verbal guidance by creating a mental map for emotional clarity, making calm and intentional behavior more instinctive. Use self-talk to label emotions accurately. Instead of vague statements like, "I feel bad," name the specific emotion. "I feel anxious," "I feel frustrated," or "I feel uncertain." Naming emotions separates them from identity and reduces the intensity of the experience. Once labeled, self-talk can guide the next steps. "I notice my frustration and will pause before responding," or "I feel anxious and will focus on one solution at a time." Practice self-compassion in your internal dialogue. Harsh or judgmental self-talk amplifies emotional turbulence and reduces clarity. Replace criticism with understanding and guidance. For instance, replace "I always fail" with "This is a challenge, and I will approach it thoughtfully." Compassion strengthens emotional resilience and fosters mental clarity even in difficult situations. Self-talk is also strategic. Ask guiding questions instead of making declarative statements when clarity is needed. Phrases like, "What is the most helpful next step?" or "What perspective am I missing?" shift the mind from reactive thinking to analytical and constructive thinking. Questions create space for reasoned evaluation instead of immediate emotional response. Develop habitual morning self-talk practices. Begin the day by affirming control over emotional responses and focus. Simple statements such as, "I am steady under pressure," or "I will respond with clarity in all situations today," prime the mind to operate from intentionality rather than impulse. Repetition strengthens neural pathways associated with emotional self-mastery. Use self-talk to maintain perspective during conflict. Instead of reacting to provocation, silently guide yourself. "I will respond thoughtfully," or "I control my actions, not others' words." This maintains composure, prevents escalation, and allows decisions to be driven by reason rather than emotion. Integrate self-talk with journaling for reinforcement. Write down internal statements, review them, and refine language for maximum impact. Seeing guiding words on paper makes them more tangible and solidifies their effect on your emotional state. Journaling also reveals recurring patterns that can be addressed proactively. Micro practices enhance daily mastery. Pause for one deep breath and recite a short guiding phrase before starting any task, entering a meeting, or responding to a difficult conversation. Even brief moments of intentional self-talk accumulate into significant emotional control over time. Consistency is key. The nervous system responds to repeated, deliberate guidance more strongly than to occasional effort. Regularly using self-talk to steer emotion trains both brain and body to default to clarity in stressful moments. Over time, calm, intentional thinking becomes instinctive. Use affirmative self-talk rather than negative or wishful thinking. Statements like, "I am capable of handling this," are stronger than, "I hope I can handle this." Affirmations communicate certainty to the subconscious and reduce hesitation or emotional distraction. Strong, confident self-talk creates internal stability. Self-talk is also proactive. Anticipate situations that might provoke strong emotions and develop guiding phrases ahead of time. Preparing in advance reduces the likelihood of being hijacked by automatic responses and increases clarity in the moment. Balance emotional awareness with directive statements. Acknowledge feelings while steering behavior. "I feel frustration, but I will focus on constructive action," or "I notice my anxiety and will slow down before choosing." This method integrates emotional insight with intentional guidance, ensuring actions align with goals rather than momentary impulses. Monitor results and refine language. Notice how certain phrases evoke calm and clarity while others fall flat or amplify tension. Adjust wording to maximize effectiveness. Your internal dialogue should be dynamic, evolving as your understanding of yourself deepens. Finally, understand that mastering self-talk is a lifelong practice. Each conscious word strengthens emotional clarity, improves decision-making, and builds resilience. Using self-talk intentionally turns the mind from a reactive battlefield into a guided, steady, and focused instrument. Repetition, mindfulness, and purposeful language transform thought into calm action, creating a foundation for emotional mastery, personal growth, and consistent clarity in every aspect of life. Chapter 4: Thunhai, learn from emotional setbacks to grow stronger daily. Every emotional setback is an opportunity disguised as a challenge to strengthen your character and resilience. Life does not hand out mastery over emotions lightly. Every time you experience disappointment, frustration, or anger, there is a lesson waiting to be discovered. Emotional setbacks are not failures. They are signals highlighting areas where awareness, patience, and control can improve. Growth occurs not when everything goes smoothly, but when you confront difficulty and extract wisdom from it. The difference between stagnation and progress lies in how you respond to these emotional challenges. The first step is reflection. After a situation triggers a strong emotional response, take time to pause and examine it. Ask yourself what happened, why it caused such a reaction, and how you contributed to the situation. Honest self-assessment allows you to see patterns in behavior and identify areas where impulsivity or misunderstanding influenced your emotional state. Without reflection, emotions control you instead of you learning from them. Next, identify the lesson within the setback. Every intense emotion carries insight about your values, expectations, and triggers. Perhaps frustration reveals a boundary that needs reinforcement, or disappointment signals a misalignment between your expectations and reality. Accepting that these feelings are informative rather than punitive transforms emotional disruption into constructive feedback. Resist the urge to dwell on blame. Blaming yourself or others perpetuates negativity and diminishes learning. Focus instead on understanding what occurred and how you can respond differently next time. This mindset turns setbacks into tools for growth, reinforcing a proactive approach to emotions rather than reactive patterns. Emotional journaling is a practical method to learn from setbacks. Write down the event, the emotions experienced, your reaction, and the lessons you discover. This process externalizes internal turbulence and allows for structured analysis. Over time, reviewing these entries reveals recurring patterns, triggers, and progress, giving you clear insight into how your emotional mastery evolves. Mindful observation strengthens learning. Notice the physical sensations, thoughts, and impulses that arise during setbacks without judgment. Observe tension in the body, racing thoughts, or impulses to act without thinking. This awareness separates the experience from reaction, allowing you to respond with intention in future situations. Awareness is the bridge between emotional turmoil and constructive growth. Reframing is a powerful tool. Instead of seeing setbacks as personal flaws, view them as necessary experiences for growth. Ask yourself how this situation can make you wiser, more resilient, or better prepared for the future. Reframing emotional experiences reduces stress and encourages proactive learning rather than defeat. Set small actionable steps after each setback. If an argument caused frustration, decide to practice active listening next time. If fear led to avoidance, commit to taking one small, deliberate action despite discomfort. Concrete steps convert insights from setbacks into habits that strengthen emotional control over time. Self-compassion is essential when learning from emotional setbacks. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding instead of harsh judgment. Emotional mastery grows faster when mistakes are treated as lessons rather than failures. Compassion allows reflection to remain constructive and prevents emotional spirals from undermining growth. Seek feedback when appropriate. Trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues can provide perspective on situations where emotional responses were challenging. External insights reveal blind spots, offer alternative interpretations, and highlight strengths that might go unnoticed. Feedback accelerates learning and fosters humility in the process. Identify patterns over time. Emotional setbacks are rarely isolated incidents. Similar triggers will appear repeatedly until consciously addressed. Recognizing these patterns allows you to anticipate reactions, prepare strategies, and gradually rewire emotional responses. Repetition without reflection strengthens habits. Reflection without action weakens growth. Both together build mastery. Practice patience during setbacks. Emotional growth is not instantaneous. Insights often take time to integrate fully into behavior. Allow space to absorb lessons, experiment with new responses, and adjust strategies. Patience reinforces consistent improvement and prevents frustration from undermining progress. Transform setbacks into motivation. Each emotional challenge you face can fuel determination to become more self-aware, disciplined, and resilient. Rather than allowing disappointment to discourage you, use it as a reminder of your commitment to mastery. Motivation built from challenges is enduring because it is anchored in personal experience rather than abstract ideals. Visualization enhances learning from setbacks. Mentally replay the situation, but this time imagine responding differently with composure, understanding, and clarity. Visualizing successful emotional responses primes the brain to enact these behaviors in real life, strengthening neural pathways for deliberate action. Track measurable progress. Note improvements in emotional responses over days, weeks, and months. Seeing tangible growth reinforces confidence and commitment to self-improvement. Even small gains signify neural and behavioral changes, confirming that setbacks are temporary guides rather than permanent obstacles. Reinforce learning through repetition. Apply lessons from setbacks consistently in similar situations. Practicing intentional responses builds skill, reduces automatic reactivity, and gradually rewires your emotional responses to be proactive rather than reactive. Mastery emerges from repeated, deliberate application of insight. Balance reflection with forward focus. Learning from the past must guide the present without anchoring you in regret. Extract lessons, acknowledge emotions, and apply understanding in the next moment. Growth occurs in the present, guided by insights gained from setbacks, rather than being trapped by them. Celebrate emotional resilience. Recognize moments when setbacks were handled better than before. Celebrating these wins strengthens internal motivation and reinforces patterns of conscious response. Positive reinforcement solidifies growth and fosters confidence in emotional capabilities. Cultivate perspective to reduce intensity. Ask yourself how significant this setback will be in 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year. Shifting focus from immediate emotional intensity to long-term context reduces overreaction and supports clearer understanding. Perspective allows for rational evaluation and strengthens decision-making under stress. Integrate supportive practices such as meditation, deep breathing, or movement to process emotions effectively. Physical and mental grounding techniques complement reflection and learning, helping stabilize the nervous system and prepare for future challenges. Combining mental and physical practices enhances retention and application of lessons from setbacks. Recognize that emotional mastery is cumulative. Each setback addressed intentionally, each insight applied, and each pattern corrected compounds over time into profound resilience. Growth is not linear, but consistent effort transforms difficulty into strength, confusion into clarity, and reactive patterns into intentional behavior. Learning from emotional setbacks is not optional for those who seek personal mastery. It is essential. Every challenge faced is an opportunity to observe, reflect, and refine responses. The process strengthens awareness, deepens understanding, and builds a reliable internal compass for handling future situations with composure, wisdom, and confidence. By embracing setbacks as daily lessons, emotional growth becomes not only achievable but inevitable. Chapter 50. Choose responsibility over blame when emotions feel overwhelming. Taking full responsibility for your emotions is the single most empowering action you can take to regain control over your life. When emotions feel overwhelming, the natural impulse is to look outward and assign blame to circumstances, other people, or events. This reaction is common because it provides temporary relief from discomfort, but it comes at the cost of personal power. Every time blame is chosen over responsibility, control is ceded and growth is delayed. Responsibility does not mean you caused the situation, it means you own your response and decide how to move forward. Choosing responsibility transforms emotional turbulence into actionable insight and restores agency. The first step is awareness. Notice when the urge to blame arises. Pay attention to thoughts that say, "They made me feel this way," or "This situation is unfair." Recognize that while external factors may trigger emotion, they do not dictate how you respond. Awareness allows you to separate triggers from reactions, giving space for conscious choice. Pause before reacting. Take a deep breath and create a brief mental distance between feeling and action. This pause interrupts the automatic cycle of blaming others and opens the door to deliberate responsibility. Even a few seconds of conscious breathing can prevent escalation and reduce the intensity of overwhelming emotion. Reframe internal dialogue to emphasize ownership. Instead of thinking, "This person is making me angry," replace it with, "I notice anger arising and I will respond thoughtfully." Language shapes perception. Consciously directing self-talk toward responsibility rewires the mind to focus on what you can control rather than what you cannot. Reflect on triggers objectively. Ask yourself, what specifically caused the emotion, what role you played in the situation, and what you can do to address it constructively. This analysis shifts energy from external blame to internal problem solving, which is empowering rather than draining. Develop a habit of asking solution-oriented questions. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I do in this situation to maintain clarity and composure?" Questioning in this way transforms emotional overwhelm into actionable steps and positions you as an active participant in your life rather than a passive victim of circumstance. Recognize the distinction between responsibility and guilt. Responsibility is proactive and empowering. Guilt is passive and paralyzing. Owning your emotional response means acknowledging influence over your choices without self-punishment. This mindset allows growth to occur even in difficult situations. Practice accountability daily. Start with small moments where emotions arise and consciously choose responsibility instead of blame. Notice how this shifts interactions, reactions, and internal peace. The brain strengthens pathways of ownership through repeated practice, making responsibility the default mode over time. Use journaling to reinforce accountability. Write down situations that triggered intense emotions, identify your reaction, and explore how responsibility could have been taken. Documenting insights provides clarity, reveals patterns, and encourages conscious behavior adjustments for future challenges. Set clear intentions before engaging in potentially stressful interactions. Remind yourself that your response is your responsibility and that reacting impulsively or blaming others does not solve problems. Setting this intention creates mental resilience and establishes a foundation for consistent emotional control. Embrace discomfort as part of the process. Responsibility often requires confronting difficult feelings without projecting them onto others. Acknowledging emotions honestly and facing them directly builds strength, awareness, and emotional intelligence. Avoiding discomfort through blame only prolongs stress and delays mastery. Focus on what is within your control. You cannot dictate another person's behavior or change external circumstances, but you can always regulate your own actions, speech, and choices. By centering attention on controllable factors, overwhelming emotions are transformed into manageable, actionable energy. Integrate deep breathing or grounding techniques to stabilize responses when emotions surge. Physiological regulation supports mental clarity, making it easier to consciously choose responsibility rather than defaulting to blame. Steady breath and calm posture create the physical foundation for deliberate emotional action. Self-compassion is crucial. Taking responsibility does not mean harsh self-judgment. Treat yourself with understanding while acknowledging areas for growth. Compassion reinforces the learning process, encourages persistence, and prevents discouragement during emotionally intense moments. Learn from each experience. Examine how taking responsibility influenced the outcome, interactions, and emotional state. Compare scenarios where blame dominated to those where ownership guided responses. Understanding the practical benefits reinforces commitment to responsible behavior and emotional mastery. Develop guiding self-talk. Phrases like, "I control my response," "I can choose clarity," and "I am responsible for my emotions" reinforce the mindset necessary to act with agency. Repeating these affirmations during emotional surges strengthens neural patterns that favor ownership over reactive blame. Set boundaries to protect emotional energy. Responsibility includes acknowledging what is within your influence and what is not. Avoid unnecessary exposure to situations that perpetuate blame or overwhelm, while remaining engaged in areas where your choices matter. Boundaries increase clarity and preserve emotional stability. Observe the ripple effect of responsible emotional behavior. When you own your reactions, others respond differently, often with more openness and cooperation. Emotional responsibility fosters healthier communication, strengthens relationships, and reduces conflict intensity. This demonstrates that ownership benefits both internal states and external dynamics. Practice gratitude alongside responsibility. Acknowledging what is within your control and appreciating your ability to choose your response builds a resilient mindset. Gratitude shifts focus from frustration at external events to empowerment derived from internal choice. Remember that responsibility is habitual. Each deliberate decision to own your emotional response strengthens the mind-body connection and develops resilience. Over time, choosing responsibility becomes instinctive, creating a foundation for calm, intentional action in all circumstances. Choosing responsibility over blame transforms life fundamentally. Emotional overwhelm diminishes because power is no longer surrendered to external factors. Clarity increases because attention focuses on actionable steps rather than complaints. Mastery develops as patterns of ownership replace cycles of blame, guiding you to steady, empowered, and emotionally intelligent living. Every time you feel the urge to blame, take a breath, observe the emotion, and consciously choose responsibility. Each moment of ownership is a step toward mastery over your internal state and a life guided by conscious decisions rather than reactive impulses. This practice builds strength, composure, and freedom to respond effectively in all areas of life. Chapter 16: Build emotional resilience through honest self-accountability. Emotional resilience begins the moment you stop making excuses and take full accountability for your inner world. Life will challenge your emotions in ways that are often unpredictable, intense, and uncomfortable. The natural tendency is to avoid responsibility, to blame circumstances, or to suppress feelings, but true strength arises from confronting your reactions with honesty and clarity. Emotional resilience is not about avoiding stress, it is about meeting it directly, observing your responses, and choosing to act with awareness. Every time accountability is embraced, the mind becomes stronger, the heart steadier, and your capacity to handle life's challenges grows exponentially. The first step is self-awareness. Notice your emotional responses as they arise without judgment. Identify when your feelings escalate, when stress tightens your body, and when frustration clouds your judgment. Awareness is the foundation of accountability because you cannot take responsibility for what you do not fully see. Observing yourself with honesty allows you to pinpoint patterns, triggers, and habitual reactions that undermine composure. Next, reflect on your role in each emotional reaction. Did impatience, fear, or pride influence the way you responded? Did assumptions or unexamined expectations intensify the experience? Being honest about your part in emotional outcomes is not self-blame, it is recognition of the power you hold to direct your own responses. Accountability empowers rather than punishes, allowing you to learn and adjust effectively. Documenting experiences is a practical way to reinforce self-accountability. Journaling provides space to record emotional events, your reactions, and the lessons learned. Writing down responses encourages clarity, allows reflection without distortion, and creates a track record of progress over time. Reviewing these entries shows growth and reveals recurring patterns that require attention. Set clear intentions for emotional behavior. Before entering situations known to be challenging, remind yourself that your response is your responsibility. This pre-commitment establishes a mental framework for resilience, reducing the likelihood of impulsive or reactive behavior. Intentionality strengthens consistency, making accountability a default rather than an occasional choice. Develop guiding self-talk statements. Phrases like, "I am responsible for my reactions," "I will respond with clarity," or "I can manage my emotions thoughtfully," reinforce conscious control. Internal dialogue shapes perception and behavior, and deliberate language directs energy toward resilience instead of chaos. Repetition of affirming phrases trains the mind to respond with stability rather than reactivity. Embrace discomfort as a teacher. Emotional challenges are inevitable, and avoidance only weakens resilience. Honest self-accountability requires facing difficult feelings, exploring why they exist, and identifying practical ways to manage them. Each confrontation with discomfort strengthens mental endurance, reduces fear of future challenges, and builds confidence in your ability to navigate adversity. Separate emotion from identity. Feeling frustration, anxiety, or disappointment does not make you weak or inadequate. Honest self-accountability involves recognizing emotions as data, not definitions. This distinction allows you to act intentionally, learn from experience, and maintain stability without being overwhelmed by temporary states. Break down overwhelming experiences into actionable steps. When a situation triggers strong emotions, analyze it carefully. What is under your control? What are the facts? And what can you do immediately to address the matter constructively? Focusing on controllable elements transforms helplessness into agency and reinforces resilience. Practice consistency in applying accountability. Emotional resilience grows through repetition. Each time you take responsibility for your reactions, regardless of how intense or uncomfortable, neural pathways strengthen, making deliberate, measured responses increasingly automatic. Consistency converts effort into habit, and habit solidifies emotional stability. Mindfulness amplifies the effects of self-accountability. Observing thoughts, sensations, and impulses without judgment creates a space to choose responses thoughtfully. Mindfulness prevents reactive escalation and provides insight into triggers and patterns, making accountability actionable rather than abstract. Reflect on consequences without judgment. Evaluate how emotional responses impacted relationships, decisions, and personal goals. Honest observation of results teaches cause and effect awareness and clarifies the cost of unregulated reactions. Understanding consequences strengthens motivation to act responsibly and reinforces the value of emotional mastery. Use visualization to practice resilience. Imagine challenging scenarios and mentally rehearse responding with clarity, composure, and thoughtful action. Visualization trains the brain to navigate real-life stress calmly and intentionally, making accountability more natural in practice. Build supportive routines that reinforce self-accountability. Regular reflection, journaling, meditation, or structured breathing exercises cultivate stability, strengthen awareness, and prepare the mind for measured responses during high-emotion situations. Structured routines create consistent opportunities to practice and internalize resilience. Develop patience with your progress. Building emotional resilience is gradual. Honest self-accountability is not about instant perfection, but about steady improvement. Acknowledge each successful application of responsibility and learn from setbacks without discouragement. Patience allows practice to compound into lasting strength. Seek feedback when appropriate. Trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues can provide perspective on emotional responses and accountability practices. External observations highlight blind spots, affirm progress, and provide insight into areas needing additional focus, accelerating growth. Celebrate mastery of small moments. Emotional resilience is strengthened by repeated, seemingly minor applications of accountability. Each time you recognize your role in a reaction and choose a deliberate response, you reinforce the neural and psychological patterns that build long-term strength. Small wins compound into substantial growth. Recognize the interplay between mind and body. Emotional responses often manifest physically. Honest self-accountability involves noticing tension, shallow breathing, or restlessness and addressing them alongside mental strategies. Techniques such as deep breathing, grounding, or controlled movement enhance clarity, calm the nervous system, and support responsible decision-making. Integrate learning from past experiences. Reflect on previous emotional challenges, note how accountability improved outcomes, and apply insights proactively. Learning from history prevents repeated mistakes, builds confidence, and reinforces patterns of resilience. Emotional resilience is a lifelong practice, not a destination. Daily application of honest self-accountability strengthens character, improves decision-making, and creates a stable inner foundation. Each moment of intentional reflection, Every acknowledgement of personal responsibility and every deliberate choice under stress adds to a cumulative reservoir of strength. Choosing accountability transforms the way you experience challenges. Emotions no longer dominate. You are guided by clarity, awareness, and wisdom. By embracing responsibility, confronting discomfort, and learning consistently, emotional resilience becomes a natural, reliable, and empowering aspect of life, ensuring stability, composure, and confident action in every circumstance. Chapter 17D. Practice gratitude to balance negative emotional patterns. Gratitude is the simplest and most powerful tool to shift your mind from chaos to clarity and restore balance in your emotions. When negative emotional patterns take over, it is easy to feel trapped in cycles of frustration, worry, or resentment. These patterns grow stronger when attention is focused exclusively on problems, perceived injustices, or what is missing in life. Gratitude interrupts this cycle by redirecting awareness to what is present, what is working, and what can be appreciated even in small ways. It does not ignore challenges but provides a stabilizing counterbalance that allows the mind to respond more thoughtfully rather than reactively. Begin by observing your emotional state. Notice when negativity begins to dominate your thoughts. Is frustration rising because someone acted unfairly, or worry building over uncertainty? Awareness is the first step in breaking free from automatic negative responses. By identifying these patterns, you gain the ability to consciously introduce gratitude as a stabilizing force. Start small. Each day, identify at least 3 things you can genuinely appreciate. They can be simple, like a warm cup of coffee, a kind word, a supportive friend, or a moment of quiet. The practice is not about ignoring difficulties. It is about retraining the mind to notice positives that are often overlooked. Small daily acknowledgements compound over time, gradually reshaping perception and emotional baseline. Write down what you are grateful for. Journaling makes gratitude tangible, reinforces awareness, and creates a record that can be revisited during moments of emotional turbulence. Seeing concrete examples of what is working in your life shifts focus away from negativity and strengthens the habit of appreciation. Pair gratitude with reflection. Consider why each item or experience is meaningful and what it brings to your life. Reflecting deeply on gratitude strengthens emotional impact, providing a sense of purpose, connectedness, and stability. This process transforms gratitude from a casual acknowledgement into a powerful tool for emotional balance. Use gratitude intentionally during stressful moments. When a negative reaction begins to rise, pause and identify something positive within the situation, no matter how small. This could be an opportunity to learn, a chance to practice patience, or a reminder of personal resilience. Shifting focus in the moment helps regulate the nervous system, reduces emotional intensity, and creates space for deliberate responses. Cultivate gratitude toward yourself. Recognize your efforts, progress, and resilience. Acknowledge times when you handled a challenge well, when you chose patience over reaction, or when you learned from a difficult experience. Self-gratitude builds self-respect, strengthens emotional stability, and reinforces patterns of positive self-talk. Gratitude also strengthens relationships. Express appreciation to others for support, kindness, or effort. Vocalizing recognition fosters trust, reduces conflict, and creates a positive feedback loop in social interactions. Stronger connections act as an emotional buffer and enhance resilience in challenging circumstances. Integrate gratitude into daily routines. Begin or end your day by focusing on what you value and appreciate. Make it a consistent practice rather than occasional reflection. Regular reinforcement anchors positive emotional patterns, gradually reducing the dominance of negativity. Visualize gratitude actively. When faced with negative thoughts, imagine the people, opportunities, and experiences that bring value into your life. Visualization engages emotion and strengthens neural connections associated with appreciation, making it easier to recall positivity under stress. Combine gratitude with breathing and mindfulness practices. Slow, deliberate breath paired with mental focus on things you are thankful for deepens relaxation, clarifies thought, and stabilizes emotional responses. The combination of awareness and appreciation enhances both mental and physiological balance. Practice gratitude even for challenges. Recognize the lessons embedded within setbacks, the opportunities for growth in discomfort, and the strength gained from facing difficulty. Reframing obstacles in this way fosters resilience and transforms emotional hardship into constructive experience. Monitor shifts in emotional patterns. Observe how consistent gratitude practice influences your reactions, mood, and outlook. Notice moments when frustration or negativity would have previously dominated, but is now tempered by appreciation. Awareness of progress reinforces motivation and strengthens habit formation. Use gratitude as a grounding anchor. When overwhelmed by uncertainty, stress, or fear, intentionally focus on what is present and what is good. Anchoring attention on positives stabilizes emotional responses and reduces impulsive reactions. It reminds the mind that challenges are temporary and manageable. Engage multiple senses in gratitude practice. Feel the warmth of sunlight, hear the sounds of nature, savor a meal, or notice physical comfort. Sensory awareness deepens emotional connection to positive experiences and strengthens the calming influence of gratitude. Teach yourself to reframe negative thoughts into opportunities for appreciation. Instead of dwelling on inconvenience, ask, "What can I learn from this?" Or, "What is still working well despite this situation?" Reframing trains the mind to respond constructively and reduces the likelihood of habitual negative thinking. Celebrate small successes. Recognizing progress, completed tasks, or small wins enhances emotional balance. Gratitude for achievements, even minor ones, fosters confidence, reinforces agency, and shifts focus away from persistent negativity. Combine gratitude with accountability. When negative patterns emerge, acknowledge them honestly and then consciously choose what you are thankful for within or despite the situation. Accountability ensures that gratitude does not become avoidance or denial but acts as a balancing corrective for emotional regulation. Integrate gratitude into social interactions. Offer genuine appreciation to coworkers, friends, family, and even strangers when possible. Externalizing gratitude reinforces internal emotional balance, creates positivity around you, and strengthens personal influence in relationships. Maintain consistency in your gratitude practice. Emotional patterns are deeply ingrained, and consistent effort is required to shift neural pathways. Daily practice, reinforced through journaling, mindfulness, and verbal acknowledgement, strengthens emotional balance over time. Gratitude transforms perception. It does not eliminate challenges, but it changes how they are experienced. By consistently focusing on what is present, positive, and meaningful, emotional patterns that once dominated with negativity are balanced, and responses become measured, calm, and resilient. The habitual practice of gratitude cultivates emotional stability, strengthens resilience, and enhances clarity in decision-making. Each moment of appreciation diminishes the power of negativity, empowers conscious responses, and builds a foundation for sustained emotional mastery. Over time, gratitude is no longer a practice, but a natural lens through which all experiences are interpreted, creating a stable, balanced, and intentional emotional life. Chapter 80 Create space between feeling and action consistently. True mastery of your emotions begins the moment you learn to pause before acting and create space between feeling and reaction. Most people live their lives on autopilot, reacting immediately to every surge of emotion without reflection. Anger flares and words are spoken, anxiety rises and decisions are rushed, frustration builds and actions are regretted. Living this way keeps the mind and heart in constant turmoil, and it prevents growth, clarity, and control. Creating space between feeling and action is not about suppressing emotions, it is about stepping back, observing them, and choosing responses deliberately. This space is where mastery begins, where conscious decisions replace impulsive reactions, and where emotional intelligence transforms your life. The first step is awareness. Recognize when an emotional response is arising before it escalates into action. Observe the physical cues: tension in your shoulders, quickened heartbeat, shallow breathing, or tightness in your chest. Notice the mental cues: racing thoughts, judgmental self-talk, or impulsive urges. Awareness allows you to detect the early stages of emotion, giving you the opportunity to insert space and act intentionally rather than reflexively. Next, pause deliberately. Even a few seconds can change the course of your response. Breathe deeply, count silently to 5, or take a step back mentally or physically from the situation. This brief interruption creates a buffer zone where rational thought can re-engage, reducing the likelihood of saying or doing something impulsive. Each pause strengthens the habit of responding with intention instead of reacting automatically. Develop a mental checklist to guide action during this space. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What outcome do I want to achieve? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values and long-term goals? Structured questions like these transform emotional turbulence into deliberate problem solving, empowering you to act with clarity and purpose. Engage the body to stabilize the mind. Physical grounding techniques such as deep breathing, pressing your feet into the floor, or gently stretching can calm the nervous system and reinforce the pause. When the body is steady, the mind can think more clearly, and the space between feeling and action becomes more effective. Practice labeling your emotions, internally naming what you feel. Anger, disappointment, frustration, or excitement creates distance between the sensation and the impulse. Simply identifying the emotion without judgment diminishes its intensity and prevents automatic reaction. This labeling technique strengthens self-awareness and gives you control over the energy of the emotion rather than allowing it to control you. Visualize alternative responses during the pause. Mentally rehearse different ways to act that align with your values and desired outcomes. Consider the consequences of each choice before speaking or moving. Visualization strengthens the ability to respond thoughtfully in real time, making the space between feeling and action increasingly effective. Integrate consistent reflection after each emotional experience. Review situations where you successfully created space and handled emotion well, as well as moments when impulsive reactions took over. Analyze what strategies worked, what could be improved, and how to strengthen the habit in future interactions. Reflection ensures that each experience becomes a lesson that reinforces emotional mastery. Set up reminders throughout your day to pause intentionally. Whether through a subtle alarm, a sticky note, or mental prompts, reminding yourself to create space reinforces the practice. The more consistent the reminder, the more naturally the pause becomes integrated into your emotional responses. Build routines that support emotional spacing. Morning meditation, journaling, or brief mindfulness exercises prepare the mind to respond rather than react. Regular routines cultivate mental flexibility, calm awareness, and the ability to insert space even during high-stress moments. Practice empathy during the pause. Consider the perspective of others involved in the situation. Understanding intentions, emotions, and context reduces automatic defensive or reactive impulses, allowing for a more thoughtful response that maintains integrity in relationships. Use positive self-talk to reinforce the space. Phrases such as, "I will respond with clarity," "I have time to choose wisely," or "I control my reactions," remind the mind that action is a choice, not an automatic consequence. Consistent reinforcement through self-talk strengthens neural pathways for deliberate behavior. Challenge habitual reactive patterns gradually. Identify situations where you most often act impulsively and consciously insert space during these moments. Start with smaller triggers and progressively tackle more intense scenarios. Incremental practice builds confidence and skill, making intentional responses automatic over time. Recognize the power of delayed action. Waiting to respond often reveals solutions, clarifies priorities, and reduces emotional intensity. Immediate reactions are often clouded by temporary feelings, whereas delayed responses are informed by reflection, perspective, and intentionality. The ability to delay action is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Combine the pause with perspective. Ask yourself how significant this situation will be in 1 day, 1 week, or 1 year. Shifting focus from immediate emotional intensity to long-term impact helps you respond in ways that are constructive and aligned with your overall well-being. Perspective tempers impulsivity and enhances wisdom in action. Reinforce the habit by rewarding intentional responses. Acknowledge moments when you successfully created space and responded thoughtfully. Celebrating these wins strengthens motivation, builds confidence, and reinforces the neural pathways necessary for consistent emotional control. Teach yourself to observe without judgment. Emotions are neither good nor bad. They are data providing insight into needs, boundaries, and values. Observing without judgment prevents escalation and keeps your mind clear, allowing the pause between feeling and action to be productive rather than reactive. Integrate breathing techniques during the pause. Deep, slow breaths activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reduce stress hormones, and create a physiological foundation for deliberate responses. When body and mind are regulated, the space between feeling and action becomes a tool for composure, not tension. Understand that creating space is a skill, not an instant solution. Mastery comes from repeated practice, reflection, and reinforcement. Each pause strengthens resilience, enhances clarity, and develops a consistent ability to respond rather than react. Over time, the habit becomes instinctive, making intentional action second nature. Creating consistent space between feeling and action transforms emotional life. Impulses lose their grip, reactions are deliberate, and clarity replaces chaos. Each moment of pause builds emotional intelligence, strengthens self-control, and reinforces the ability to navigate challenges with composure. By practicing this consistently, emotional mastery becomes a natural part of daily living, empowering every decision, interaction, and response. Chapter 19c. Commit to emotional mastery through daily conscious practice. Emotional mastery is not a destination, but a deliberate daily commitment that transforms every area of life. Every day presents countless moments that test patience, composure, and clarity. Emotional mastery does not mean never feeling frustration, anger, or sadness. It means responding to those feelings with awareness, control, and intention. The foundation of mastery is daily conscious practice, a routine of deliberate attention to how you think, feel, and act. Without consistent effort, emotions dictate decisions, habits, and outcomes, leaving life reactive rather than intentional. Committing to mastery requires focus, discipline, and willingness to face discomfort repeatedly while maintaining clarity and purpose. The first step is setting a clear intention each morning. Begin the day by deciding that emotional mastery is your priority. Remind yourself that you are responsible for your responses, that your emotional state shapes your decisions, and that conscious attention is required throughout the day. This daily commitment acts as a compass, guiding your choices even when stress or challenge arises. Develop a structured routine to support emotional practice. Include time for reflection, meditation, journaling, and mindful breathing. These practices reinforce awareness, calm the nervous system, and allow you to observe emotions without being controlled by them. Daily structure transforms mastery from an abstract goal into a tangible, actionable habit. Observe emotions as they arise. Notice the subtle shifts in energy, tension, or thought patterns before they escalate. Awareness is the gateway to choice. Without noticing emotion in real time, reactions remain automatic. Daily conscious observation trains the mind to recognize triggers, anticipate reactions, and intervene before impulse dominates behavior. Practice intentional responses. In every situation, pause, reflect, and act with purpose. Small moments like responding calmly to criticism, waiting before answering an email, or choosing patience in traffic, compound over time. Each deliberate action reinforces neural pathways that favor composure, self-control, and emotional intelligence. Journal consistently to track growth. Record emotional challenges, your reactions, and lessons learned each day. Journaling provides insight into patterns, highlights progress, and solidifies accountability. Over time, reviewing entries demonstrates how daily conscious practice strengthens emotional mastery and illuminates areas requiring additional focus. Integrate gratitude into emotional practice. Recognize the positive aspects of experiences, even during difficulty. Gratitude shifts perspective, reduces reactivity, and fosters resilience. When paired with conscious emotional practice, gratitude becomes a stabilizing force that balances negative impulses and reinforces awareness. Use self-talk intentionally. Words shape thought and action. Throughout the day, remind yourself of your commitment to mastery with statements like, "I respond with awareness," "I control my emotions," or "I choose clarity over reaction." Repetition of intentional self Talk strengthens the habit of deliberate emotional engagement. Confront discomfort directly. Emotional mastery grows through exposure, not avoidance. Notice fear, frustration, or sadness without suppressing or projecting them onto others. Daily conscious engagement with uncomfortable emotions builds tolerance, understanding, and resilience, allowing mastery to expand naturally. Set boundaries to protect practice. Emotional mastery requires energy and focus. Limit engagement in draining interactions or toxic environments when possible, while remaining proactive in areas where your actions have impact. Boundaries create space to practice consciously without unnecessary interference. Reflect on setbacks without judgment. Missteps provide invaluable feedback. When emotions overwhelm or reactions become impulsive, analyze the situation calmly, identify triggers, and adjust future responses. Honest reflection reinforces growth and ensures that each challenge strengthens mastery rather than eroding it. Incorporate mindfulness exercises throughout the day. Short moments of focused attention on breathing, sensations, or surroundings stabilize the mind and provide repeated opportunities to practice conscious response. These micro-practices maintain awareness and prevent automatic reactivity from dominating daily life. Visualize mastery in real situations. Mentally rehearse challenging encounters and practice responding with calm, clarity, and intentional action. Visualization strengthens the neural foundation for deliberate behavior, making mastery more natural in real-time circumstances. Track progress quantitatively and qualitatively. Note patterns of improved response, reduced stress, and clearer decision-making. Observing tangible growth reinforces commitment, strengthens motivation, and highlights the benefits of consistent conscious practice. Celebrate incremental wins. Every moment you respond with awareness instead of reaction is an achievement. Recognizing small successes reinforces habit formation, builds confidence, and motivates continued practice. Mastery is cumulative, and consistent acknowledgement of progress accelerates development. Engage your body to support emotional control. Regular exercise, posture awareness, and breathing techniques maintain physiological stability that underpins conscious emotional engagement. A regulated body enhances clarity, reduces impulsivity, and strengthens the mind-body connection essential for mastery. Seek feedback and accountability. Trusted friends, mentors, or coaches can offer perspective on how emotions are expressed and managed. Constructive observation accelerates growth and ensures that daily conscious practice aligns with goals of emotional control. Adapt strategies as needed. Emotional mastery is not rigid. It evolves with circumstances, challenges, and personal growth. Regularly evaluate techniques, identify areas of improvement, and experiment with new practices that enhance awareness, calm, and intentional response. Flexibility ensures sustained development. Integrate purpose into practice. Understand why mastery matters: improved relationships, better decision-making, reduced stress, and deeper personal fulfillment. Purpose fuels consistency and commitment, ensuring that conscious practice is maintained even when effort feels challenging or progress seems slow. Commit to lifelong practice. Mastery is continuous, requiring daily attention and adaptation. Each day offers countless opportunities to observe, pause, reflect, and act intentionally. The accumulation of these moments creates a resilient, balanced, and empowered approach to life. By committing to emotional mastery through daily conscious practice, you take control of your inner world, transform reactivity into intentional action, and cultivate a life of clarity, composure, and resilience. Every deliberate choice strengthens the mind, stabilizes the heart, and reinforces the foundation for consistent growth, ensuring that you navigate life with purpose, balance, and unwavering self-control. Chapter 20. Lead your life by mastering emotions, not suppressing them. True leadership in life begins the moment you decide to master your emotions instead of suppressing them. Suppressing emotions only creates hidden pressure that grows over time, impacting clarity, decision-making, and relationships. Anger, fear, sadness, or frustration that is ignored does not disappear. It accumulates silently, influencing behavior in subtle and often destructive ways. Mastery, on the other hand, allows you to acknowledge feelings fully, understand their origins, and direct them purposefully. Leading your life from mastery means emotions become allies rather than obstacles, guiding insight, resilience, and deliberate action. The first step is recognition. Identify what you are feeling without judgment or avoidance. Notice the physical, mental, and behavioral signals that accompany each emotion. Anger may bring tightness in the chest, rapid breathing, or a desire to speak impulsively. Anxiety may create tension in the stomach, racing thoughts, or indecision. Recognition is not about labeling yourself, but observing objectively so that you can respond consciously. Next, accept emotions as natural signals, not threats. Each emotion carries information about your needs, boundaries, and values. Suppression occurs when feelings are seen as weaknesses or dangers, but mastery reframes them as guides. Accepting emotions provides clarity, prevents escalation, and allows insight into personal triggers and responses. Pause before responding. The space between feeling and action is the foundation of mastery. Instead of reacting immediately, breathe, reflect, and consider the most constructive way to respond. This pause prevents impulsive actions and ensures your behavior aligns with values and goals. Each conscious pause strengthens the ability to act intentionally under pressure. Practice self-inquiry consistently. Ask why an emotion has arisen and what it is attempting to communicate. Consider the underlying beliefs, assumptions, or expectations that may be fueling the reaction. Honest self-inquiry reveals patterns, reduces unconscious triggers, and builds emotional awareness, forming a strong base for leadership of self. Use structured reflection to guide progress. Maintain a daily practice of journaling experiences, emotional responses, and lessons learned. Reflection allows you to track growth, identify areas needing attention, and reinforce strategies for balanced responses. Over time, this practice turns insight into habitual mastery. Develop intentional emotional habits. Replace reactive behaviors with deliberate actions that reflect calm, clarity, and purpose. Respond to criticism with curiosity instead of defensiveness. Approach conflict with reasoning instead of aggression. Navigate setbacks with resilience instead of despair. Daily practice of intentional habits ensures mastery becomes instinctive rather than theoretical. Balance emotional expression with discernment. Mastery does not mean indiscriminate display of every feeling. It means communicating emotions appropriately and effectively, ensuring that expression serves clarity, understanding, and resolution. This balance prevents suppression while avoiding chaos, fostering confident and controlled leadership of self. Incorporate mindfulness and grounding practices. Awareness of the present moment stabilizes the nervous system, reduces impulsivity, and strengthens insight. Techniques such as controlled breathing, sensory observation, or brief meditation anchor attention, creating consistent capacity to respond rather than react. Mindfulness reinforces the foundation for leading life with emotional clarity. Learn from every emotional challenge. Each difficult interaction, setback, or surge of strong feeling provides opportunity for growth. Analyze what worked, what escalated tension, and what could have been approached differently. This iterative process of learning strengthens emotional intelligence and builds resilience necessary for self-leadership. Engage in self-talk intentionally. Internal dialogue shapes perception, response, and behavior. Use affirmations that reinforce mastery such as, "I acknowledge my emotions and act with clarity," or "I control my response and lead with awareness." Consistent reinforcement strengthens the neural pathways associated with deliberate behavior. Set boundaries to protect your energy and clarity. Mastering emotions includes knowing when to step back, when to disengage, and when to prioritize reflection over reaction. Boundaries prevent overwhelm and create space to maintain composure, ensuring consistent alignment with personal values and objectives. Observe consequences with honesty. Notice how emotional responses, when mastered, lead to improved decision-making, stronger relationships, and greater personal influence. Recognizing the benefits of mastery reinforces motivation and commitment to continued practice. Conversely, analyze lapses without harsh judgment to adjust strategies and prevent repetition. Visualize emotional mastery in high-pressure scenarios. Imagine conflicts, challenges, or stressful events and practice mentally responding with composure and clarity. Visualization strengthens preparedness, reinforces intentionality, and enhances confidence in real-life application. Integrate gratitude into emotional awareness. Recognize the value of each experience, emotion, and challenge. Gratitude transforms difficulties into lessons, reducing reactive patterns and reinforcing stability. Emotional mastery is reinforced when every feeling is acknowledged as information that guides thoughtful action. Practice patience consistently. Mastery grows gradually. Instant perfection is impossible, but consistent effort compounds over time. Each deliberate choice to act consciously rather than react impulsively builds mental and emotional strength, making mastery increasingly natural. Use feedback and social observation to refine skills. Trusted individuals can provide insights into behavior and emotional impact. Constructive observation accelerates growth and ensures that emotional mastery aligns with personal and professional objectives. Integrate purpose and vision into emotional practice. Understand that mastering emotions is not just for internal peace, but also for leading a life with clarity, influence, and meaningful impact. Connecting daily practice to a larger purpose strengthens commitment and embeds mastery into identity. Maintain flexibility and adaptability. Emotional mastery requires adjusting to new challenges, evolving circumstances, and varied social dynamics. Being rigid or dogmatic undermines responsiveness, whereas flexibility allows consistent composure across diverse situations. Commit fully to daily conscious practice. Mastery is sustained through repeated awareness, reflection, and intentional response. Every interaction, internal thought, and decision is an opportunity to strengthen skills, reinforce calm, and maintain control. The cumulative effect of consistent practice transforms emotional intelligence into a permanent capability. Leading life through emotional mastery, rather than suppression, creates freedom, clarity, and authentic influence. Emotions become allies that guide thought and action rather than hidden forces that dictate behavior. Daily practice, conscious reflection, and deliberate response cultivate a life of integrity, resilience, and intentionality. Mastery allows every decision, interaction, and challenge to be approached with clarity, balance, and confidence, transforming ordinary experience into purposeful living.